as KCD team introduced, my name is Arun. I'm from Grafana Labs. I have my colleague Surabhi here with me. She will be assisting us on the back-end related stuff. But little introduction about myself. I have over 15 plus years of experience. I've worked in different companies like Oracle, like Jinal. With my McAfee, I've been spending some time on the security space, and I have good amount of experience with JFrog. Worked in some time with JFrog, then Elastic. I was a part of Elastic core team in India. Then I moved to Grafana here. So because I believed in the passion of open source and the company's concept of big tent, I hope you can hear me audible. The voice is audible. If not, just raise a flag. Okay, let me try to adjust it. So that's a short introduction about myself. So we are running on a very tight leash today, but still I would like to probably hear your background a little bit. Let's spend at least 10 minutes. I already spoke to Jinal and also Ravi, but if anybody else would like to speak up, introduce yourself, your understanding of Grafana Labs, etc. That would be really helpful for us so I can navigate the session accordingly, right? Anybody would like to take a shoot at it? Preeti, Harshit, Krishna Rao.
Yeah, my name is, hi, good morning all. My name is Krishna Rao.
Hey.
So I work in Microfocus, one company. So I'm in the software side only, and we use Grafana for the observability. But I have not used in-depth wise, in the sense user wise I use actually dashboard, but I would interested actually if I get some more in-depth actually knowledge on the Grafana side, or how to configure some other sources, data source or something like that, or how to create new dashboard or something. Yeah, overall, that's all from my end.
Thank you, Krishna. So how many guys are not aware of Grafana Labs? Probably let me ask this question. Since we have more folks, I'm sorry, guys. It's a bit difficult to individually allow time, but we will do it over the course, not intentionally, but we will do it. So how many of you are probably used or not used any of a Grafana? We have a poll as well, but just trying to understand it here. You can chat in or you can unmute yourself. Both are fine. If you're not comfortable, that is also fine. I will review that answer in short, but let me set the background of today's meeting. Okay, so the thing that you're saying now, the LGTM looks good to me. So it is part of a Grafana stack. We, as a Grafana, most of the folks would be aware of Grafana as a visualization layer, but we are offering an end-to-end observability platform, which is again, the core of it is open source. So what at this point, what we wanted to do in today's probably 3 hour session, and sometime we'll leave it for Q&A, is we want to introduce you to the whole platform. It won't be like a deep dive, guys. I'm being very honest with you. This is more like a beginner's masterclass. I wanted to introduce probably from 1,000 feet view to a 500 feet view. Please introduce you what are the different components of Grafana Labs stack and how to play around with it. So you are a bit more at the end of this overall 3 hour session. I would feel it more successful if you're able to probably play it around, ingest data through a visualization dashboard, some basic stuff. I'm happy. Okay, so I will probably get treat from Surabhi and KCD team for that. So I hope they would do that. So that's all the intention is. It is more like a beginner's class. If you're already more advanced, it might not be so beneficial, but hang on. You might learn one or few things. I might learn a lot of things from you. So that's the agenda for today. The webinar is recorded. All the registrants will receive access to the recording. You can submit any Q&A in the chat. I'm the only one who's managing it. So you will get a response at a later point, or I will take it offline as well. Okay. This is the agenda. With the time, I know it's a 3.5 hours is like huge time on a Saturday morning. See, my kids are playing on the next door, so they're banging the door, which I'm probably don't want to happen, but I understand. Very happy to have you guys here on a Saturday. This is the agenda. We'll start with a basic introduction, which we ideally did to some extent. We will start again, we'll go there from to a concept called Big Tent philosophy. Grafana's core is open source, and our founders have a vision called Big Tent philosophy. So I wanted to explain that. I wanted to start that, the whole conversation from there. Then I will move on to the LGTM. So what is LGTM? You might ask me, right? Some of you might be already aware of it. L stands for Loki, G stands for Grafana. Uh, what are the other two things? It is metrics and traces. Okay, LGTM. So we have our own products that kinds of helps our customers to manage the complete logs, traces, metrics, etc. In a single pane of glass in a consolidated manner without having your data moving into the platform. That is what an LGTM is. That is what I'm going to introduce you to this particular world of LGTM. These are the time split up, and don't worry, we do have also breaks in between. If you need more breaks, I'm sorry. We have a break today, only one break, I presume. Then we have a demo is not at the end, so I will try to move away from slide deck and demo, so to keep you more engaged, and we'll have a Q&A towards the end. So this is the overall agenda, guys. This is what I'm planning to do today. So this is how the flow also to be. We are going to start with Grafana, basic things. Then I'm going to slowly take you to metrics. What is metrics and how Grafana will help you to manage metrics. Then logs. What are the traditional logging solutions that are available in the market? How Grafana can help you. Then traces. So these are the overall flow. There is a new addition to this whole thing called Flare. It is more like a continuous profiling. I'm not covering it in today, but if you are interested, I'm happy to schedule a one-on-one call with you. You can reach out to us. We'll have a conversation going forward with any of the tool in detail. We can do that. Okay. Fact. So why observability is important? Why we are even talking about another tool. Okay, a lot of times when I meet customers, the first reaction was, hey, okay, another tool to the spectrum, right? There are like hundreds and thousands of tools that have been like growing crazily, and every tool says, hey, we are a single pane of glass, we will provide you consolidate everything, and all these, every vendor claims that, right? So why it is like more competitive now than a decade back? Because we are living in a digital world, right? So if you think about it, it used to be the data generators used to be the mainframe, all the big servers, supercomputers of the world. It has been transitioned in such a way that now even your mobile phone can generate huge tons of data. We have IoT devices coming into picture. We have cloud services, microservices. The growth is enormous. So we are living in a digital world. There is another recent survey that I read, like by 2025, every one day humans would be generating somewhere around 480 hexabytes. I will share you the link of that particular study that I read like a week back. So when the data is more, you need a better way to manage it. Another challenge after the COVID thrown into the world was the macroeconomic situation. So we are unfortunately seeing a lot of layoffs, a lot of cost cutting, lot of things are happening that are not so positive. But at this point in time, what a lot of organizations, enterprises figured it out was, as I think Jinal said this word beautifully, so a cost optimization. I don't want to throw money on hundreds of tools available. I wanted to spend it in a cautious manner. At the same time, I need to get some form of a... Sorry, guys, could you be please on mute? Okay, thank you, guys. Okay. So this is what we are also feeling. Okay, whenever we meet a customer, right, they would simply ask how much it is going to cost me, Arun. So all these things, A, B, C, are amazing. I think it can solve a lot of problems that my company has, but how much does it cost? How much it is going to cost me? Because every enterprise at this point in time are more cost conscious. At the same time, they don't want to lose the quality. So we are living in that kind of a world today. So this is what Grafana helps you to solve it. Before that, another thing, a very, very basic stuff. What do you do when you see this? Uh, you can unmute yourself, tell me your frustration, but generally, uh, this is something I'm an 80s kid, okay, late part of an 80s, so I'm a bit older now. I'm used to this. I have a bit more patience now. I'm having a bit more patience at this point in time. So I used to access internet via the telephone thing. Okay, so I have seen this, I've used to this, but the Gen Zs or millennials, as they used to call, right? Nobody has that kind of a patience today. So their response would be simply like this, right? Nothing. So they don't want to spend time wasting anymore on. Okay, so you need, because of this kind of an environment, because of this kind of expectations that has been set in the world, you need a better way to probably manage and make your systems operational 24 bar 7. No holidays, nothing. It need to be run in probably a very good manner. So how to do that? So the ideal thing is, if I know there is something wrong, I can prevent it, right? But fact is, we don't know what is wrong today. You have hundreds of microservices, thousands of servers running. It's difficult to find what is wrong today, right? So you cannot prevent what you do not know. So this is what all the observability vendors today try to solve. This is what Grafana is solving in a different manner. Probably will cover how Grafana helps you to do it. What is Grafana Labs, or who is Grafana Labs? So a poll, KCD team, could you please prompt a poll? So guys, please feel free to type in. So what do you know about Grafana Labs? Have alerts and on-call features. I don't know Grafana. That is also fine, guys. We will ensure that you know a little bit of about Grafana today. Data aggregate, log data with Loki. Okay, almost all of you guys are aware of what Grafana does. So that is really good. And yes, it creates beautiful dashboards. That is one of our strong suit. Amazing. So a little bit information about Grafana Labs. We are an open source focused company. What we develop, all the developers, almost like 60-70% of the developers that we have work on open source project plus some commercial activities. But open source is heart of what we do as of today or even in the nearby future. We have more than 1,000+ employees across the world. So probably a year back, it would be somewhere around 500+. We are growing in an enormous way. In India, we probably have like 10-15 members now. We are building a whole, expanding a lot in India now, because lot of customers are using in India. So we felt the need to have a local presence. We have more than 1 million active instances of LGTM across cloud and OSS and 10 million users. So out of this, 50% of Fortune 500, Fortune 500 companies, I'm sorry, are using Grafana, and it's a bit more now on Fortune 500 if you think about it. So this is a very short introduction of Grafana, and I'm based out of Bangalore, or Bengaluru as we call it, and we Surabhi from our team is based out of northern part of India. So we are a distributed company. That means you can work from anywhere. There is no office across the world for Grafana. So we believe in distributed based culture. Our culture is completely on remote. So it's amazing. I'm happy to be here. That's a short introduction about what Grafana do. But most of the time, right, when I've spoke with customers, when I asked them about what is Grafana, the first thing that comes into their mind was, hey, amazing dashboard. And at the same time, I can fetch data from anywhere. So that is what most users think of. That is how we begin our journey into this Grafana world. But Grafana is much more than that, right? It is not just a visualization platform that can pull data just to give it in a beautiful manner. But we also felt there is a larger gap that need to be filled in the market, because the industry needed a solution that can manage metrics, logs, and traces in a cost-effective manner and also an efficient manner. And our belief, the way we our founders wanted the company to run, that is why I also joined this company, is if we don't want to give some kind of a product that is not so good as an open source. Our open source is on par with our commercial offering. As a solution architect, one of the major challenges that I feel when I'm speaking to a customer, right? Our biggest competitor is our open source. So whenever I try to speak with a customer, hey, this will really solve, and the response I get is, hey, that is really no, that is really cool, but your open source does solve almost all the problem that I have. So that's a healthy response. I'm not saying it is a bad one. That is a really good thing. That means our company is actually focusing on the right thing. Okay, so it is not anymore about dashboards. It is like a complete stack plus K6. That is not the scope of today's discussion, but K6 is a company that we acquired near a couple of years back. It is a performance testing based tool. It does chaos testing and all these different things. Using Grafana, you can get a granular level access of your testing performance data. To zoom in or double click on this particular stuff, this is our composable observability stack. On top, what you see is the famous visualization layer, the Grafana. I'm sorry. Right. Using that, we have a lot of plugins available that you can use it to pull data, store it in Grafana, create amazing visualizations that would increase your productivity. Okay. On top of it, what we do also have solutions like the K6 one, not the primary focus of today's discussion, prevention part. And this, the right hand side and alert management. This is again not the focus of today's call. This is if I want to give an example, K6 is more like an enhanced Selenium. Selenium is very cumbersome. K6 is the highest level that you can get at the state of the art kind of a testing. That is, you can do it on a browser. This incident response and management, it is an alerting feature plus kind of a solution for like a pager duty. So you don't need to go out of the Grafana stack to do any of these activities. Everything is consolidated for you. And in the middle is what the focus of today's discussion, uh, how to find challenges, issues in metrics, logs, and traces, and profiles. Profiles, again, I'm not going to cover detail, but I will touch base a little bit on it today. On top of all these things, the solution, enterprise offering, or even some sort of an open source, it provides you the security. It had, when we built it, we thought of scale and support in mind. So we have a commercial offering where you get a support from Grafana team itself, and the whole thing can be built as a code using a Terraform, Ansible, or if you're comfortable with webhooks, feel free. Our platform is as open as possible and completely composable. You can use it as ever you want it. Okay, and all these features are available in the form of open source, which is our most of the enterprises use today. We are seeing a huge adoption or a migration from open source to enterprise or cloud. At least in the past 1 year, I've seen tremendous growth in that particular adoption. So this is what we offer as of today, and we are expanding a lot. There are a lot of internal projects, again, open source, are being currently done, which I'm not at liberty to say at this point, but the future is amazing for Grafana is what I could tell you. Not just for Grafana, for all the consumers in the open source world, because we are coming up with more exciting projects, which you will hear from us very soon. Okay. But why another tool is required, right? Because most of the vendors that you see in today's market say, hey, I'm consolidating everything. But if you think, recently I met our biggest telecom operator in India. I cannot name it, but the challenge is they have like hundreds of teams. And whenever there was an issue, every team used their own set of tools. They're comfortable with ABC, they're comfortable with BCD, etc. So when there is an issue, and executive want to understand where is the actual issue happening, the problem is they conduct a war room. They bring a representative from different DevOps team, infra team, different application team. They conduct a war room kind of a scenario. They try to figure something like this. So which is a challenge, right? Because when you think about a lot of vendors like Splunk or Elastic or any Datadog, for example, they always think about or even emphasize more on consolidation. But is it really happening in the industry? Because every team has to find the best breed of tools that would help them to achieve whatever they wanted. So not all the team would use the same thing. So the consolidation is a huge, huge task. Full transparency, I've been with all the competitors that I'm speaking about today, worked there. The challenges for an enterprise of even a 500, 600 employee scale with a decent amount of data, the migration plan of consolidating into a single tool at least is a 10 months to 1 year project. So it's a huge effort. So you need a better way to manage this operational blindness with a very cost-effective manner and in a faster manner. These two are the key terminologies. The cost, I also need to do it in a much more faster way. Okay, so with this in mind, this is what Grafana Observability are trying to solve it for you. But before I jump on to the next step, right? So could you please tell us what are the different observability platforms do you use today? Doesn't matter OSs. Been talking about Grafana solving things in a cheaper manner or cost-effective manner or a faster manner. How? Before that, let me throw the same problem in a different manner. See, in today's world, if I'm having an issue, so I'm more biased towards Slack because I use Slack a lot for the past 6 7 years. So I get an issue in Slack alert. When I click the alert, it takes me to Grafana's dashboard where I'm seeing latency or the golden signals, as Google call it, request, errors, duration, saturation. I'm checking that. If there is an issue, I'm clicking this. It would take me to Prometheus. Hey, some latency issues are there. Let me check it out. From Prometheus, if I want to figure out what happened during the log, I click it, takes me to Splunk. From Splunk, I need to understand the APM related stuff. So, or a tracing part, clicking it, taking me to another tool, New Relic or any other tool in the market, Datadog or whatever it is. From here, I'm fixing it, going back to the developer, ask him to fix it. This is a vicious cycle, right? Just to fix a single problem or identify a single issue, right? I need to go through multiple tools, multiple hops. This is a nightmare. Okay, really, I've been in this situation. It's a nightmare to get things done in a bigger. Startups can manage it in a more, digital natives can manage in a much more effective manner. But when a company grows, it is a hard truth. I would say it's more like a medicine. It does not taste well, but this is the hard truth. Disparate systems and disparate data, right? These are, I'm not going to read through all these things, but you understand the gist of it, right? So load on team, high cost because I need to employ different tools and all these things. And the data resides in different parts. There is no centralized view. Because of it, the blindness would come, data blindness or issue challenges would come, and a lot of issues can go undetected. So what Grafana provides you today is, hey, we give you the flexibility, use whatever tool you wanted. I'm using it for metrics, hundreds of tools, logs again 50, traces again hundreds of tools. What Grafana gives you, the Grafana cloud or an enterprise or even open sources, the flexibility to have a dashboard of dashboard. Hey, we are not, when we talk about consolidation, we are not pitching or we are not even forcing our customers to move all the data to our database. Hey, I'm having the data in Splunk, replace Splunk, bring it to Grafana, replace Elastic, bring it to Grafana. No, that's not what we are trying to achieve. We want to give the power back to the consumer or the customer. Hey, use whatever tools you wanted. We will help you to consolidate everything in a truest manner in a single dashboard. It's more like a dashboard of dashboards. You can create a dashboard for your executive. So they get a very high. I'm going to show you a demo in some time where I'm going to start from an executive view to the SRE's view. So you will get the flow of it. This is what open and composable observability stack means. It's completely open. You can compose it with multiple components that you're comfortable with and get everything as a ROI. You can get the ROI from the Grafana in a very, very faster manner. And we are completely cheaper than any of the tools that you use today, that I can vouch for. So how do we do that? We do that via different plugins. Okay, it is more like an API call, API based communication. There are a lot of community plugins available, but we do also have an enterprise plugins available. Enterprise are for enterprises, as the name suggests. I'm using niche product like Splunk, SAP. I'm using ServiceNow. We have enterprise plugins, Appdev, to talk with these different tools, get the data, probably visualize it for you. So we do also offer you enterprise plugins. We also have hundreds of community plugins also available. So this is what it ideally means. This is just to give an idea. This is a single dashboard, first pane of glass. All the tools that in the market that you see today are here. I'm having a app dynamics here. I'm getting all the latency information from app dynamics. I'm using a Zabbix data source to get some data. Pingdom I'm using Snowflake, I'm using all the different tools, Splunk. In this single dashboard, I'm using 10 different tools. Okay, I'm using 10 different data sources to fetch the data from 10 different data sources, giving you a consolidated view. And the best part is I can correlate the data. So if something is wrong, I don't need to go to that tool to figure it out. I can simply click it. It takes me from a single place, a truest form of single pane of glass. Right. So in this particular case, right, this is how it's seamlessly. So it's all seamlessly organized for you. From here, using a on call, you get an alert wherever you wanted. From here, it takes you to Grafana. From here, it takes you to metrics, Grafana in the metrics platform. From here, it takes you to all the things that are part of Grafana stack. So you, as an end user, you still have the flexibility to use whatever you wanted, but at the same time, I don't have to go through hundreds of tools to figure out what actually happened. So this will increase your productivity based on at least my experience. I've seen companies have actually increased their productivity at least by 30 to 40%. I'm being very conservative here. And they've actually saved at least 40% of their commercials in a starting point. Okay, this is what I've seen. I have data to back my claim as well, right? So 5 key positive, again, reduce MTTR, business visibility, and all these things are very self-explanatory, right? Now it's a fun time. So let's move on to the demo part. But before I move on to it, just wanted to ask guys, are there any questions? We are running short of time, but I don't want to just rush it. If it goes a little bit later also, it's fine. We'll try to accommodate it. I hope it is fine with KCD team. But are there any questions you have, guys? I'm not seeing nothing on the chat. If so, please type in. We are happy to answer it for you. You will get the slides, don't worry. I hope Surabhi will check it out. I don't want to commit anything now. We'll check probably if, okay, KCD team responded. Amazing. Okay. Again, we are trusting you and sharing this internal slide. So use it with a pinch of salt. Okay. Don't share it outside as well.
Okay. Yeah, I have one question, Arun. Yeah, when it comes to monitoring, or it would be like logs, analyzing. So how will it goes with, say, for example, any cloud provider, whether it could be Google Cloud or any other cloud. So even they have the logs and monitoring systems and all the pretty much features. The Grafana also comes with. So what is the comparison level, or when we have to go for cloud-based monitoring and logs analysis, or when we should go for, is it only because of cost, because of it is open source, and when we go with the cloud-based monitoring logs, it is paying, we are paying for that. So could you please put your inputs, views? Thank you.
So can I park this question for now, because I'm next part is I'm going to cover logs in some time.
Yeah, sure.
Right? If
yeah, sure.
Okay. So
Thank you.
Again, there was another question here. Can you explain what traces are? Preeti, probably I would again like to park this because this is a bit advanced question at this point, but we are going to cover what are traces today and how it is used today, definitely. Okay. Thank you for that. So now the primary focus, what I'm going to show to you today is Grafana's visualization layer. That is combining hundreds of data sources. Doesn't matter it is Google, doesn't matter Amazon. We are trying to get data from multiple places. Okay, so how it works, like, so the way I wanted to show that is, right, so if you work in any organization, there would be always be executives. Executives will have a business level dashboards available. They don't want to jump onto the nitty-gritty details. They would see probably a high level business kind of a dashboard. From there, if there is any issue, they can click it, go level below to the actual issue. So root cause analysis or finding a challenge. So this is what I wanted to showcase. Suppose there is a banking application, there is an e-commerce application, let me put it in this way. So it is like this. Okay, so I have a banking application probably running it on AWS. If some issues happen, there would be incidents created in service now. At the same time, I also need to figure out that performance of my DevOps team, like how much, how the services are up. If different PRs are created, how fast it is created, how much frequency the deployment is happening. So I need to add these in for an executive. These are important. I don't mind the nitty-gritty details. Day in, day out, I don't want to focus. I wanted to see the bigger picture, the high level thing, primarily the cost. I'm using AWS, how much it is costing me per month. I can go into AWS dashboard, but I don't want to do this hundreds of things to get the basic stuff, right? So in this particular case, this is what an executive probably of a bank would expect if I was an executive. So I took the liberty to do this, considering me as an executive, touch wood. Okay. So in this case, I have different kinds of platforms, core platform, mobile banking, and all these things. And internet banking seems to be in a different color. That means it's not so healthy. So in a single, probably under 5 seconds, I figure out internet banking is not working. So I can call the person who's managing that particular module, ask him to check it, or I can even click it and take it over. Or I have data from AWS or multi-cloud. I have that here. Okay, how much each service is, I can even get that flexibility or a granularity. How much each AWS service is consuming in terms of dollars. In this case, if there are any actual incidents in service now, I can have that MTTR, MTTI, all the information I can get it. So I can also have a Jira ticket. So I have an incident. For that incident, Jira ticket is created and has been assigned to another person. I can see that here as well. I can add that if you are comfortable. Then the DevOps. So ideally, think of it very simple way, right? This is a dashboard of dashboard. In this particular dashboard, I have probably used 5 to 6 different data sources that fetch the data and display it here. So this is an executive level, right? If I want to understand what actually gone wrong in this internet banking, click it. It takes me to the internet banking service. This is the probably module lead or team lead kind of a dashboard who is managing this particular service. Inside this, I would get again that team spend on AWS and all the different microservices of that team, which might go wrong. It gives that information. Okay, error budget and all these information. So in this case, services, it seems to be in this color. So that error might be because of this particular services, because the SLO, people talk about SLAs and all these things, right? It is 999 is the basic minimum, the expectation is, right? 4 nines or 5 nines are what the industry norm at today's point. So this is much, much lesser. So it might be because of that. If you want to understand what actually is going wrong, even you can click it. It takes you the actual developer or SRE's kind of a view. Here they can understand, hey, see, these are the different pods that are running. This is the different traffic. This is the error code, traffic, everything you can get. This is an SRE level. So the things that you see, I think this is another great point. Google mentioned something called golden signals in their SRE handbook. Okay, so I'm sure you might be aware of it. If not, also it's fine. It is like a rate of request rate, error rate, duration, saturation. These are the golden signals, as they used to call. That would help us to understand the health of an application and make some actions on top of it. So in this case, the saturation seems to be 50%, might have triggered that particular issue. You can also understand, see, this is an error code. I can simply click edit. It tells you a query that kinds of brought this particular error code. Okay, this is the query. This is actually from a Prometheus, which I will share it to you in some time, probably another 15-20 minutes. I will share it across that. Okay, so I can even play around with it. Okay, simply come here. What else I wanted to do? Probably I need to reduce the opacity. Okay, so I can play around with it. So this is very pretty straightforward. If you want it, you can play around with it. You can change this to bar chart or gauge stat. whichever you're comfortable with. I'm going to stick with time series because it exactly tells me what exactly is wrong, this time series. That is really nice. So whatever you see here is data source, which I will cover in short. What is that? Okay, this is how probably your whole executive level to SRE level kind of a transition. In this particular case, all the dashboards have at least 4 or 5 different data sources. That actual data relied on an external tool altogether. It does not rely on Grafana to get this particular kind of granularity. Okay, so that's the advantage. But how do I bring that? How do I do this particular thing? It is possible via what you call it as a data source integrations. You can, we have multiple options available. You can add a data source, okay, in the form of plugins. So I can add AWS or Azure or GCP, whatever I wanted. Okay, and if I'm trying to do this, I just need to connect this data source, okay, and give your inputs like security and all these things. Once it is done, the data would automatically come. So we have plugins available. We have community plugins. We have an enterprise plugins. Both are available. Using this, you can pull all the data that you wanted, okay, into into Grafana. So all these things, right? I'm currently using these stuff today. Like a CloudWatch, I'm using Charity, MySQL, I'm using Azure Monitor, I'm using all these things we are using today. Even Google Sheets, I'm using. Okay, you have the flexibility to do that. Another important part I wanted to showcase as a part of this whole demo was, okay, I have 10 different tools, 10 different data points are coming in, right? What if something is wrong? How do I know that? There are some legacy tools which does not even support alerting mechanism. I've talked about getting a notification. How is possible? So Grafana, the power of Grafana is, though the data relies on external party, though I'm trying to use it via API, we have a built-in alerting mechanism, okay, that would allow you to create any kind of an alerts if something goes wrong. For example, this is the query, this is the error code. There is a tab called alert, okay. I can create an alert from here, okay. You can choose the name of an alert. You can choose it is Mimir or Loki. We will cover that at a later point. Select the data source. What is the time duration? And give you a query here. This is the PromQL query. Give you a query here. Okay. Hopefully it should throw an error, but let us see. Yeah, it is throwing an error. I know for that. Yeah. See, all I'm trying to do was I'm getting the data for this, but here what I wanted to, when do I need to trigger an alert? So this is the threshold. So on this value, if this level is above, for example, 2, whenever it goes beyond 2, trigger an alert. If you save it, that's it. Okay. This would create an alert rule that would get triggered. Okay. Whenever it goes beyond 2, but where it will get triggered, right? You should also define whom to contact. What are the different mechanisms to contact? It is via this contact points. I can define, hey, these are the alert manager I'm going to use. If I'm adding a new one, feel free to use it. Okay. What is the mode of the communication? Slack, email, Discord. We do have whatever you use prevalently. If you're not finding this option, use a webhook. Okay. Using this, I can create an alert. So since last year, what developments we have made is, it is not sufficient to stop there, just create an alert. We also found there is a huge gap in terms of, not gap, huge disparity in terms of on-call management, like PagerDuty, hundreds of tools available. Again, you need to go out of your own observability stack to perform a very minimal thing, notifying people, on-call schedule and all these things. So in this particular case, we built our own product called On-Call, and we also integrated this with the platform. You can create on-call, you can create a user schedule. They first go to this person, escalate it to this person, or you can also completely view the whole trace, who does what. If somebody did something, probably solve that particular challenge. You can completely understand the whole view stack trace of it. Everything you can manage it in a single platform now, so you don't need to go anything out of it. Okay, so this is the power of the whole on-call management or incident resource management of Grafana that is tightly integrated with alerts. Okay, so once I've created an alert, just giving an example, once I created an alert, probably let me go back to the dashboard. So you would see a heart symbol, right? I've created an alert. If the heart is green, everything is fine. So that means no challenges have happened. If there is an issue, what happens is this heart will be showing us a broken symbol. So I don't need to go inside it even. I can see the dashboard and figure it out what is going wrong or not. Okay, this is the alerting part. I think I covered most of what I wanted to do on the Grafana part. Does the alert manager point to Prometheus alert manager or independent? We do have our own independent managed service. We have our own alert manager, but if you want to use your own Prometheus alert manager, feel free to use it. No worries. So if while you create an alert, it gives you an option, right? So you are free to do that. Okay. Any questions, guys? Amazing. So this is what Grafana as a visualization can do. I'm just limiting the scope here considering the time, because 3 hours is not sufficient to do the whole stack. Just the Grafana alone, we used to run more like a 8 hours workshop. So we do have very, very long things to cover. If you are interested, probably towards the end, we have a survey link, fill it up. We can have a detailed one-on-one discussion showcasing the power of the product. Okay. Any sample YAML scripts for alerting would be useful for reference. There are few. Okay, there are few. I'll just show you few in a minute. Okay. So once I complete this, what we are going to do for the rest of the session, right? So how many know what are the pillars of observability? So if you're not comfortable, don't worry. If you know, again, it's fine. Please type in. How many know what are the pillars of observability? Any idea? Okay. So when I talk about pillars of observability, right? Observability, we already discussed what is observability at this point. But what are the components of observability, right? So in this particular case, this is an industry terminology. If I want to do an observability, if some enterprise is saying, I am doing observability or I'm trying to adapt observability in my organization, this is what it simply means. Yes, Albin. Albin, could you please mute yourself? Or KCD team, could you mute? Thank you. So what are observability here? So metrics, logs, and traces are the 3 pillars of observability, but there is a 4th pillar added now, not just with Grafana, with any other vendor as well. It is called profiling, because given the recent advancement, profiling is again gaining more momentum. So you might see probably in a year or so, there will be a 4th pillar to be added to observability. People claim now there are 4 pillars. It is nothing but profiling, continuous profiling. If you are interested, I'll try to show you today, if time permits, how Grafana handles the profiling part. But when I say metrics, logs, and traces, how it ideally helps you to figure out an issue. So metrics, there is nothing but a number. Okay, it says CPU 90%, latency 25 milliseconds. It's a number. It simply says, hey, it triggers an alert. If it triggers an alert, for example, it simply says something is happening. CPU is 90%. Hey, CPU reached 90%. Something is happening. But I want to figure out why it is 90%, which part or where exactly this issue is caused. To understand this, from metrics, I need to go to logs. Logs will tell me what's happening. Okay, this is 90%. This is the exact service that is consuming 90%. This is the stack trace. It will tell you what's happening, where exactly it is happening, or why exactly it happening. The exact bottleneck. You can figure it out in traces. Okay. If you're not aware of what traces is, I will cover it today, so don't worry. Okay. This is the whole again the vicious cycle. Metrics, logs, and traces. Using this, you can, your SRE team or your developer or anybody who want to fix something can figure out what is wrong in an efficient manner. Okay. To achieve this, probably I would claim the only OSS full stack observability platform is Grafana. There are hundreds of commercial tools available, but if you use our open source, you still can do 90% of all the functionalities that we have. Okay, there are niche things that are available in commercial aspect plus support, but our OSS is still our strongest competitor, as I always say. Okay, to give a better idea, this is what we are going to cover for the rest of the session. We are going to start from metrics. What is metrics? What is exemplars, etc. We'll see a demo of how on all these things. Once I covered from metrics, we'll go directly to logs, then traces, then correlation. How can I correlate all the things? Correlation is an important factor. I don't, again, manually need to look into metrics, figure out something is wrong, go back to logs, figure out something is wrong. There should be a way for me to move to different parts of this conversation. That is what we are going to see in the rest of the session. Okay. Amazing. So I think we stop it. Okay. Metrics, I've already introduced what is metrics. A metrics is nothing but a number that tells you how much of something exists, right? Like this. This presentation is fun, right? Fun level of whatever I'm doing is 100%. I'm just doing it on my own. Okay, so you can have a different number. So in general, metrics are most useful when they are recorded repeatedly over time. So I don't need to know just once in 1 hour. It will not help me. So it is something that is very useful to me when it is recorded repeatedly, right? So like this. Before I begin or jump into the metrics, I wanted to ask this question. Where do you store all your data today? Not the database or whatever it is. KCD team, could we have this poll up?
Arun, I'm just sharing this. I think like the question is slightly different than what I have.
Please.
Are you using tracing solutions today? Is that?
Not the question. Are you seeing a question? Where do you store your data? I thought I shared it. Are you seeing that?
No, I don't have that one.
No problem. So guys, if you could type it also, that is fine. Where do you store your data today? Is it in DB or where do you store your data? Is it in Prometheus? Is it in Graphite, InfluxDB, AWS CloudWatch, Azure Monitor, MySQL, Loki, Elasticsearch, and others? Wherever you want it, wherever you're storing.
I see some responses coming in. So that's
yeah. File system, DB, Cloud, S3, Prometheus. Okay, we have some Prometheus experts in the house as well. Okay, cloud services, nice. Hey, admin, what is your name, admin? I'm just seeing as admin. If you can type your name also, that is cool. Okay, fine. Any other takers? Sujay. Okay, hey Sujay. Okay, so that means you are AWS S3, Elasticsearch, MySQL, amazing. So most of the folks here are using some form of a commercial offering or an open source DB to store your data. So which is really nice. Okay, so again, you need to have some form of a persistence to your data. Without it, you cannot use it. Application Insights, Azure, Mubin. Mubin, I would like to understand probably towards the end, how much is it costing you? Because I've had customers who say that it cost a bit more to have my data and Application Insights, but that's another discussion. We can have it. Okay. Amazing, right? But why are metrics important, right? So by this time, almost everyone, you understand it, right? So to understanding trends, to save your business, yes. Probably faster troubleshooting, amazing, yes. So metrics are important, but how do I collect and store metrics, right? One of the efficient way is to collect the metrics in a time series database and store it in a time series database. Why? Because because it is a metric, time is crucial. So if something happens 1 hour before, I need to know what time exactly it happened. If I want to analyze the trend, I need to understand past 3 weeks worth of data, what exactly is happening in the past 3 weeks. So time series database is highly critical. So Prometheus is one of a time series database that is popularly used across the world when you think about metrics. Okay, and Grafana is a visualization, de facto visualization tool as well. Okay, you need a time series database that efficiently stores the metric information and query this. Almost all the data store that you told, like except Elastic or MySQL, even S3, those are not time series. Elastic is not time series. Splunk has a time series DB. Victoria Metrics has a time series DB, etc. Chronosphere, few other options are there. Okay. The evolution of time series, right? Like it all started with an RRD tool, like late 90s. Okay, logging and graphing. Slowly, there are hundreds of tools came into picture. Then Prometheus came into picture by 2013, 14, something during the time, because it is open source. The adaptation of Prometheus is amazing. It is kind of the de facto standard. Whenever you think about metrics today, it is the de facto standard in that metric world. There is no other competitor to Prometheus because of the wide adaptation. And when you think about Prometheus, the de facto standard of visualization, that again is Grafana. But in Prometheus open source, we do have more than 50% of Prometheus committers or developers in Grafana. They are Grafana developers as well. We still own almost like 50% of the Prometheus developers today, as of today, right? This is just, I'm just boasting myself there. So in this particular case, Prometheus is a very, very good tool. I use it for my day in, day out activities, but there are few challenges. There are few setbacks in Prometheus, okay, which we felt need to be addressed. But again, we wanted to do it in a Grafana way. Open source at the core of it, but again wanted to probably have a vision that is so focused on composable time stack. Okay, so what we did was we forked the Prometheus project, created an open source project called Grafana Mimir. It is Prometheus plus plus, you can say. It is all the awesome functionalities of Prometheus plus added capabilities, or we probably rectified or extended certain capabilities of Prometheus and added into a Grafana solution Mimir. So we will start with what Prometheus is little bit, because most of you guys are already aware of it. Then we will jump onto the Grafana's Mimir thing. Okay. Prometheus. Very short, it's an open source pull-based network. That means I have hundreds of servers. I would be having a node exporter kind of an agent. All these information would be published. A single Prometheus server will pull the data. I have a diagram that would give a much better idea. We also can do push, but it is a different scenario altogether. Native alerting with Prometheus Alert Manager is available. So you can trigger alerts from Prometheus. Whatever on the right you see is the GUI of Prometheus. Though they are very good at collecting, scraping metrics, the UI is honestly not so visually appealing personally for me. But if you are up for it, please. Service discovery, it's one of the de facto standard, because it started as a CNCF. It became a CNCF project. It was created by SoundCloud, I presume. So in Kubernetes world, it's very much strong in terms of service discovery and scraping all the metrics. It has its own query language called PromQL, which is what we use for all of our products as well. Similar to PromQL. If you know PromQL, you can use the same for our log solution or Mimir as well. You don't need to learn anything additional for this. Integrates perfectly with Grafana. So there is a very nice story. Probably last month I went to Stockholm, Sweden. That is where our Grafana kind of founded. It's like a holy site for Grafana. So I've been there, met one of our co-founders, and one of the core Prometheus developer. I cannot name him now, but he's working in Grafana now. So when I had a chat with him, he gave a very insightful story, how Prometheus was conceptualized initially. When they developed Prometheus, how Grafana became the default visualization layer. because it's a two different entities, right? How Grafana became a very tightly coupled product with Prometheus. He gave a very nice insight. He was working with Prometheus. He is still running the community event in Grafana. He still works for Grafana now. So that is coming from the actual authors of the product, is like very nice to hear. It probably offline one-on-one I can discuss that. Okay, so how does the data collection happen? So if you look at the Prometheus, it probably some tools like Node.js, I presume, have a native Prometheus exporting available. Or if you don't have, you would need to find a way to export the metrics in this format. You don't need to manually do it. There are tools that will help you to do it. So in this case, it is more like a name value pair. You would have a name here. In this case, go memstats some bytes, and this is the value, name value pair. And there are some comments that would help you to do it. Okay. There are some labels as well. Device, as you can see, same name value pair, but devices are there. So this is how the Prometheus data would be there. Generally, any tool that you take, if Prometheus want to scrape data, it will look into this particular URL, metrics URL. You need to expose it first. From there, it would happen. So you have a Prometheus server running. I have a software that is exposing Prometheus metrics. I want to scrape it. Using a Prometheus configuration like this, it will scrape or pull the data. What this configuration tells you is, hey, every 15 seconds, go to this machine with metrics on this particular URL, okay, and get all the data. Whenever I get the data, this whole job is called as a laptop. So this is collected from a laptop, by the way. So this configuration, like a setting, will help you to fetch data from any pointer that you wanted, but you need to have a Prometheus compatible data. Okay. So type and help will tell you what this particular the key value per metric is all about. So go memstack, what it ideally does. And when you talk about type in Prometheus, right, there are few data types, just like a C or programming language, right? If I'm using Java, there is an integer data type, string data type, etc. Right? In Prometheus, there are few data types available. One is gauge. I will try to show you. Another thing is stat. We do have few data types available. So it will tell you what kind of data type it is, counter, gauge, etc. I will try to show the demo in some time on that. Okay. So that's what it simply means, Mohit. Okay. Once I have the data in Prometheus, I can integrate it with Grafana, add Prometheus as a data source, then pull all the data, then have it in Grafana dashboard. Okay. So this is how it works in 3 scenarios, quickly considering the time. So there are few tools like Node.js, as I said, who has a native Prometheus support. So I don't need to do anything. Simply point this to this URL, scrape the data. But there are tools who don't have, like my laptop, my Linux machine, it won't export metrics all the time, right? Why should I? So in those cases, there is a simple tool or an agent called Node Exporter. I simply install the Node Exporter, not even install, deploy it, take the binary, move it. It will create a web or expose a web resource with all the metrics. I can mention it in the config, pull it out. And there are devices which don't even give you the flexibility to install an exporter. That is like an SMP. We do meet customers who want to monitor all the routers, switches, data centers, right? I cannot install anything over switches and all these things. So how it works is we have something called SNMP exporter. So we will collect or forward all the switches and network devices to one consolidated machine. From here, we'll export it. So these are different scenarios that you can do. Okay. So once the data is stored in Prometheus, how will I read the data? Okay. It is via something called PromQL, Prometheus query language. Okay. It's a very powerful query language, and it is very interesting to use it. It's a bit difficult to get a hang of it for me, persons like me. When I started it, I found it difficult to get a hang of it. But once you get a hang of it, nothing like it. Okay, so it's just like you cannot go back once you get hang of it. Okay, so using this, you can do filtering, grouping, and everything. And the metric type, the type that you asked me, right? we have different data types: counters, gauges, histograms, percentiles, etc. I will show you a demo where I will explain all these data types to some extent, considering the time. And you can also have advanced data types as well, like a string, scalars, instant vector, and range vector. And probably might not be able to cover this advanced concepts today. If you are interested, I'm all up for it. We can have a detailed session to it. Okay, because it takes more time to talk about instant and range vector. Probably I'll come to this little later. Now it's a demo time, right? So I think we haven't shared this link. I don't think we shared this link, right, Surabhi? I don't think so. So I'm going to ping this. If you have time, whatever demo I'm going to show you, it is based on this particular GitHub link. So this is the project that we built. So I'm going to use this project. It's a Docker Compose or Docker based project. Using this, I'm going to show you a demo. So it takes some time to set it up. So I'm just going to directly, it's a microservice based architecture. I'm just going to directly jump onto it. Okay. So I think this is the particular service that I ran. Amazing. So here, quickly, if I look into the data source, in this particular case, I have already added these Grafana's data sources like Prometheus, Mimir, Loki, Flare, Tempo, all the things. We are going to see how all these things work together. So the primary thing is I'm going to go with Prometheus first. Okay. So I think I sent to Preeti directly. Okay. So if I click explore option is the best way to put your query, explore data in a much more faster way. So I'm going to select the data source Prometheus now. So in this particular case, if you're not sure what are the different data available, you can click metrics browser. You can simply select whatever data you wanted like this. This would automatically build the PromQL for you. You don't need to build it. Okay, this would automatically build it for you. So in this case, the application is mythical application, which is something that we did. So I'm going to get some danger levels. So let me run it. So what simply it does is this particular application, it would tell me the latencies of it, how much the latency, how it is traversing. It will give me that particular information. So you can simply say, this is the mythical group. On this particular instance, this is the job. Mythical requester is a load balancer. Okay. And this is the service for it. This is a microservice based application. I want to figure out the danger levels, how much data, how much load that has been pushed and everything. I need to figure it out here. So it gives me this. Let me change it to last 15 minutes. So it goes down, it goes up. So it gives me a bit more information, right? So I can see few other things here. I can even add more options here. I can get that information, or I can choose different. If you know what you're looking out for, you can use this metrics browser to get that information. We also have something called explain. If you click this, it simply explains you the PromQL for you, fetch all the serious matching them. So explain is a very handy thing. It helped me to learn a lot during the initial days. Okay. So rather than seeing it on an explore tab, why not build a dashboard, right? Let's add a dashboard. Let's go to the dashboard part. Let me create a new dashboard. Okay. Add a panel. So I'm going to choose the Prometheus one here. Okay. Same thing, mythical. I'm going to select this. Okay. Okay. I don't want to 6 hours, 15 minutes is fine. So here, let me change it to, this is a time series, right? So what it simply means is this is a counter. So ideally what time series simply means, or counter simply means is, it is a data point that simply goes up. Okay. If I have 0, it goes 1, 1 to 2, 1, 2 to 3. It simply increases it. That is what a counter simply means. Okay. This is not a counter. Okay. Because it goes up and down. So I can treat it as a gauge. Okay. I can treat it as a gauge as well. Probably you can also do a stat here. Okay. Stat will simply tell you what the same graph it will show you, but at the same time, it will give you the complete number as well. So let me keep time series for now. Okay. I'm just going to name it Time series. Let me name it as time series. So there are a few things I wanted to show you, but let me apply this. Okay, I have my first panel here. So I wanted to get a gauge now and a stat now. So I'm going to add a new panel. Same thing. I will choose it. Prometheus. Same thing. Okay. But this time I don't want to use time series. Let me use a gauge, because this is a gauge, right? It goes up and down. So it is giving some values, but I don't want it to be all red. I wanted to add some threshold. I need to, if I look at just this particular dashboard, I need to understand if the value is less than 5,000, it is not critical for me. If the value is more than 5,000, it is critical. So I can simply set this threshold value. If it is more than 5,000, okay, show this in this color. So if it is less, if I can change it to blue, okay. So you can add as much as customizations you wanted. I'm going to select it as Scotch. Okay, can I arrange it like this? So like this, you can add as much customizations as you wanted. Okay, this is a very simple thing. Okay, I'm creating a stat, I've created a gauge, etc. I can, why not create a stat? So, but it's a similar process. I can change it to stat as well if you want. But this is very simple query, right? What if I wanted to create a complex query? I can do that. Suppose I'm building a histogram. Assume I'm building a histogram. I think I have the query somewhere. Yeah. So what it does is same thing. All the mythical services, it tries to bucket it. For every 15 seconds, it tries to bucket that particular information by value as well as the service name. It tries to get that information. And I'm trying to get the 95th percentile. Percentile, you might be already aware of it, P95, P99, etc. 95 percentile is something, it simply tells you how much, what is the latency of 95% of the values. If I say 99, it will tell you what is the average percentiles or average latency for the past 99% of the values. So this gives a much better idea. So I can even filter it. Okay, so why not add this? Okay, so I have 3 different panels that has been added now. Let me try to add complex P95. Okay, like this, you can add as much as information as you needed. Okay, so any questions so far, guys? Any questions? Am I making sense? So I'm just trying to add one or few items here, but there is a built-in dashboard on this particular thing. You can build a very beautifully visualized dashboard like this as well. It gives you the request rate, what are the different endpoints, overall error budget, P95, which feeds simply built now. You can build a dashboard as visually appealing as this, which will also give you more beneficial thing. Okay, we just started that. You can use the same concept to build anything you wanted. Suppose you wanted to understand how this particular dashboard is built, simply click edit. It will give you the query which have been used to build this particular dashboard. Okay, so this is what I wanted to showcase on the Prometheus basic metrics, but I wanted to
how to get an help there actually to create a complex query.
Okay, so in this particular case, creating a complex query, it is up to you to create whatever I created, which is something I've created. Okay, but there are some good PromQL things, guides available that you can leverage to understand how to build a query like this. But you need to have an understanding of your data to do that. But I can share you some offline guides that will help you to get started on it. Another thing I'll tell you, if you don't want to write this query every time like this, right? You can use the metric browser. If you know what metrics you wanted to build, okay, I can choose, I want to do this, I want to do that. For example, you are doing all these things. I'm going to use this query. When I do this, for example, when I'm trying to query a normal thing, when Grafana identifies that particular query returns a value which are more suitable for histogram, it will give you a hint. Hey, change it to this, change it to that. So you can simply go with the Grafana's recommendation to actually build a complex query. We also have something called kickstart your query here. If you're a newbie, if you want to understand more about it, try to go here. It simply says, hey, sum of rate. It gives you all the complex query template. So I'm going to use this, for example. Okay. Whatever data you wanted, you can build it. So I'm going to, I don't think it will return any value, but yeah. This is how you build it using the kickstart your query in metrics browser. Okay. So now we understood a bit of Prometheus, right? So, but why I'm saying there are challenges in Prometheus, why we even considered moving towards Mimir, I would say, right? So it's a very honest question. It's a very straightforward question. And I would tell you why. Challenges, one of the pain points of Prometheus, few pain points of Prometheus is scaling. For example, I'm starting with a simple Prometheus monitoring with handful of infrastructure applications. All will work perfectly fine. But when I wanted to, Prometheus is very critical to my business because my servers are critical to my business. I need to monitor it all the time. What if Prometheus goes down? There is no high availability concept in Prometheus. Okay. To achieve high availability, the workaround is you need to have two different Prometheus running parallelly. Same Prometheus, these two Prometheus will scrape the same data. That means your data is redundant. There is, even if one goes down, there is always some kind of a gap between the data and these two things. So it's very difficult to switch over if something fails. HA is a major challenge. The data gaps is something which we've personally seen customers going through a lot to solve. Okay, then is scalability. I have hundreds of data centers, 5 different data centers. Every data center, of course, will have a Prometheus metrics, for example, to monitor it. But how do I share the information around? It's difficult. For example, if I'm increasing more number of services in my data center, a single Prometheus server or with a limited resources, it's difficult to handle it. So what we generally do is there is no horizontal scaling concept in Prometheus. So you have to vertically scale it, adding more RAM, adding more CPUs. Vertically scaling has a limit as well. So you cannot scale Prometheus after a certain limit because its vertical scaling is not so reliable at this point in time, right? Because industry is like scaling in a much more faster manner. So you need to have a better way to manage the scaling issue. At the same time, if I'm trying to do upgrade, I have a single Prometheus server, a huge Prometheus server. I'm trying to upgrade, it's very difficult to bring down my production, right? So what if something goes wrong? So these are the second challenge. The third part, very important, is security. Okay. So security is, I have hundreds of people, admins, and all these guys are working. There is no centralized governance. I cannot break down Prometheus into multiple tenants like architecture, give this access to this person, this access to that person. It's difficult to achieve the tenant multi-tenancy concept in Prometheus. It's not there. Because of it, that is a very difficult to get a global visibility of your own data. Yes, Prometheus, there is no login auth. So the RBAC, what we used to call that as an RBAC, role-based access control, it is not there. So these are the major challenges that we personally seen a lot of our customers going through. And Prometheus, to their credit, they're also trying to solve it, but it's not in the primary focus because there are hundreds of ways a particular enterprise can overcome it. But a normal end user like me was not that resource knowledgeable or don't have that much of a commercials with me to achieve what I'm looking at for the scale. So to overcome this, what we came back as the solution is Grafana Mimir. We forked Prometheus project. We addressed all the scalability, high availability, security issue. we built a new project called Grafana Mimir, which is open source, by the way. We do have a commercial offering. It's an open source. But the way to collect data, we also optimized it for you. You can use Grafana agent. It's a single agent that works as Prometheus node exporter does. Okay, you don't need to have a pull-based mechanism. So Grafana agent pull the data. Okay, it has all the codes that you wanted. It will automatically remote write it to Grafana Mimir. And from Mimir, it's tightly coupled with dashboard. You can visualization. You can use the visualization. For a highly available Prometheus setup, Thanos will help. Thanos will definitely help. Thanos, it's a bit out of the scope for today, but just for the benefit of others, Thanos is another open source project that tries to solve the high availability challenges with Prometheus. But it takes care of high availability and scalability to extent, but security is still a major concern. And you won't get the support that you needed because it's still an open source. Okay, there are few differences between Thanos and Mimir, but I'm happy to discuss it often, not an issue. Okay, but Thanos is very valid point. So using a single agent, I can collect information from as much as data I wanted. I can remote write to Grafana Mimir. Okay, but how Grafana Mimir address the scalability and other challenges I mentioned, right? So we will talk about agent in some time because it also comes under low-key, but agents is more like any other agent that you find in the market. It's a Grafana's own agent. I can use a single agent that does collect metrics, logs, and traces. It's a probably we wrapped around Promptail and other kind of service. We provided a single tool to gather information from multiple places. Okay, we will talk about that. But Mimir, what is Mimir? So all the topics I talked about before, high availability, long-term storage, horizontal scalability, multi-tenancy. When I'm doing all these things without losing the focus on performance. Okay. And at the same time, seeing all the results visually of Grafana as well. So we've considered all these things and built the Grafana Mimir. This is again an open source time series database. The way it works is I have node exporter, I have multiple Prometheus that is running, Grafana agents that is running. All these things will write it to a centralized Mimir repository. So Mimir, you can run it in Kubernetes, you can run it in HA mode, all the things are possible. So it manages the replica on its own, but you don't need to do that. When all the data has been written into it, it can be queried directly from Grafana. It's easy to run. Best part about all the Grafana projects is you can store the data in the object storage. So what it ideally means is you don't need to pay for it. Pay huge amount for it. Any tool that you see in the market, it won't use object storage for prevalent. For example, Elastic, right? Elastic has 4 different modes of storages: hot, warm, cold, and frozen. Frozen is an object storage. Other 3 layers are more like an SSD and HDD, which requires more money for you to shell out to have that setup and store data there. But we give you a much more cheaper option. Hey, have Mimir, have the probably few items in cache, but rest of the items store it in object storage or your own S3 compatible storages, on-prem storages like Min.io. Okay. So in that way, you can manage it in a much more economically sounded way without losing any kind of a performance. Okay. I'm going to skip this. The multi-tenancy is highly important. You can have team A, team B, team C. You can give team level access. You can give role-based access. You can give individual access as well. You can achieve the multi-tenancy in Mimir. So Ravi, that's a very good question. Cloud native and microservices doesn't support SNM traps. We do support SNMP via an SNMP exporter. Probably I will share you a few documents towards the end, or we can discuss it. Okay. But that is kind of supported. A lot of customers are using us for that. So how does Prometheus scale? This is again a blog from our customer. Prometheus has been, Mimir has been built with scaling in mind. So we have more customers who are using it for 2 billion, 3 billion active series as well. Okay. So Mimir, if you want to play around with Mimir, go download install, everything will happen in 10 minutes if you have a Kubernetes environment. Or if you are more comfortable with the cloud, we do have the complete cloud option available. I think Shrubi might have sent a link yesterday to create your own cloud account. All the things have pre-configured in the cloud for you. Okay. Grafana Enterprise, we do have a commercial offering in Grafana Enterprise. That is called Grafana Enterprise Metrics or Grafana Cloud Metrics. Okay, GEM or GCM, we used to call it. So one of the challenges, I won't say challenges, one of the difficulties and a little bit in managing your on-premise, it's difficult to manage it. I need to, the TCO we used to call total cost of ownership. I need to provide infrastructure cost. I need to hire resources to manage infrastructure. All these things are challenges that we are seeing today. So the simplest solution is the SaaS model. So go towards SaaS, consumer service, pay on demand. How much ever I use, pay for it. So we do have our own cloud solution, cloud metrics, that is available with all the complete Grafana stack integrated. Why Grafana metrics? Because scaling, fine-grained access, global view of data, a dashboard of dashboard, a true single pane of glass for your metrics with support. All the enterprise offering, you would get the support from the team who developed Grafana or metrics or Mimir, whatever it is. So other parts, if you're using open source, you have a very strong community support, but you also, if you're an enterprise, it's always better to get an enterprise level support. We do have an SLA based support that is available. We do have our own professional services team as well, right? So this is what I was talking about, open source. We have our own Grafana Cloud, fully managed service. We have a self-managed stack as well, okay, with the complete security and other capabilities. Okay. With this, I think we reached a very important, interesting place, time for a break. But before I take a break, before Shrubi starts this or even I start this timer, any questions, guys? Anything you want to discuss? We can probably discuss that and take a break later.
Yeah, hi Arun. Yeah, I agree. Like initial question I asked regarding the cloud provided same features, but now I see like Prometheus is more robust and with respect to taking the data logs and metrics and doing it. I mean, with respect to cloud, it is more robust. Yeah. Thank you.
Amazing, no problem. I would like to add a little bit on it. So advantages, yes, if you're using cloud, I have recently met a customer who are using Azure Monitor and Azure App Insights. What they felt was having all the data in Azure App Insights and Azure Data Explorer, it have probably increased their cost at least by 70% is what they observed. At least this is the data that has been collected on the past 8 months. I met the customer 3 days back. So they were wondering if Grafana can help it because they don't want to use the built-in services of Azure. They wanted to use Grafana's Loki and Mimir to store all the data, Azure Monitor Logs, Azure Monitor Metrics. So when we did the estimation, we found we will be able to save the customer at least 40%. So we are highly competitive in terms of pricing, but also it is not just for cloud. So suppose in today's world, right, not everybody is completely cloud native, though they are. Some customers are. So I have a cloud presence. I have an infrastructure presence in on-prem, or I have some legacy machines available, or I have a multi-cloud setup. So I don't need to have multiple monitoring systems for everything, right? So I can consolidate everything in Grafana. So I can remote write all the data into Mimir, or I can even use Grafana just for visualization. So that is the power of the platform. It gives you much more robust control. You're absolutely right.
I agree. Thank you. And one more question. Maybe I missed the point. As you told, the Prometheus, we cannot scale it as it is. Only vertical scaling we can go with. So is Mimir solving that issue, solve that problem, or how is that? I didn't get that point actually.
Okay. So let me go back to this diagram. So I've intentionally hid few things because these are a bit advanced concepts. The way Mimir has been built is something like this. Okay, so you can have Mimir run as a HA cluster like this. So I have multiple teams use Prometheus, and all these Prometheus, right, will write it to Mimir, centralized Mimir clusters. Even the Mimir, all these things are horizontally scalable. So I don't need to vertically scale this Prometheus to a larger extent. Even if one goes down, I still have clusters available in this instances available in this cluster that would still serve my purpose. Okay. Because I have all the data, I'm able to tenant it, then give these kind of an access with an SSO kind of a thing. That is possible. It solves your scalability. It solves your RBAC, the security issue. Okay. Am I making sense? Right.
Yeah, thanks, Arun. Thanks. Arun.
No problem. So any other questions, guys? Any other questions? Can we create? Yes, of course, you can create Mimir alerts. You can create alerts on the platform completely as a code using Terraform or everything. That's what I said. The whole platform is completely composable. Okay, we are a complete open platform. You are free to do that. If you're looking for documentation, I'll share you some. I need to collect it. I will try to get that and I'll share it to broadcast to everyone. Okay. No problem. So any other questions, guys? If not, I'll take your leave and have a tea and come back. Any other questions? Hope there's probably a feedback that also would help. How are you feeling so far? Is it okay? The pace is good. You want me to go fast? Happy to oblige. So this is something we're doing only for you. So I don't want to rush, end it, take my weekend off. Okay. So your feedback is appreciated. You want me to go fast, go slow, please let me know.
I think we'll probably like also do as soon as the break stops, but some kind of a reactions or emojis like would be great to like kind of get that right. Yeah. Arun, I think like you do need to take that like well-deserved break. So let's meet back in like 5 minutes or 15 minutes.
Yes, I've started the timer, guys. I'll be back. Sorry, are you talking to me or?
Yes, Arun. Can you bring back that like slide where you had like list of all the projects? Maybe we can just take a quick poll while we wait for others to come in on, hey, what is people's favorite project? In your slides, you had like one in the initial set of slides, right? The first 2 or 3 slides, full list of products that Grafana has. Just come down a little bit.
And I think you're talking about this.
Yes. Yep. Hey, Suresh, yes, the recording will be available later. Yeah, for those of you that have just come back, maybe if you can just type in the chat, you know, what's one of the projects that you really like from the list that is here. There are like a lot of interesting projects here.
No, if you leave this particular meeting now, we won't send you the recording, man. So sorry, Suresh. Just kidding, man. So personal, please. Okay. So probably whoever attends till the last, you will probably get a good goodie from us. I hope I don't overcome it, Surubi. I hope we have it. But yeah. So guys, okay, Suresh is leaving. No worries, no worries. These are all the list of different projects that we have. I think what KCD team was asking is which project do you like if you used any one of that before, and or which project you would like us to have.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, Mimir was like completely interesting. I haven't heard of it before like this call. So that was the total TIL for me today.
Probably another quick interesting fact about Mimir, right? So it is completely compatible with Prometheus. So if you're using Prometheus, I don't need to migrate or do anything because both are same literally. So if you see, if you look at Mimir, it is still pointing to Prometheus data point only. So no difference literally. If you are using a Prometheus customer, please, it hardly takes probably an hour at max to get everything to Mimir. And we're not trying to replace replace Prometheus, to be honest. We are trying to extend the capabilities of Prometheus. So Fatima is also saying Mimir, amazing. That's good to know. So guys, if Mimir again is kind of a 3 to 4 hours standalone workshop, again, if you are interested, let us know. We can schedule a call follow-up and deep dive into Mimir, nitty-gritty details, how to do everything. We are happy to do it. Okay. Okay. I'm just going ahead. Any other points, any other questions, concerns, feedback? Kubernetes. Okay. Which part Kubernetes? Sujay?
The Kubernetes open source with Grafana for monitoring and all. So in the last project, it was the configuration that they were using.
Right. No, the whole Prometheus or even Grafana, it is more like a CNCF project, like Cloud Native Foundation project. So Mimir is again following the same footsteps. So Kubernetes, we are probably, I would say with confidence, we are the leader in that Kubernetes world when it comes to monitoring and observability. Okay, the whole thing is built keeping the containers and Kubernetes world in mind, the complete cloud native. Okay.
Sure. Thank you. And one more question, quick question. When we have to, Prometheus enterprise thing. So what is the capability, where the capabilities are increased, or in terms of data absorption, or it is like which features of the enterprise version go with the open source?
No, when you talk about there is no Prometheus enterprise, but if you're talking about Mimir, difference between open source Mimir and enterprise Mimir, it is more in terms of security. Okay, so the way these basic differences: security, RBAC, granular level control, and multi-tenancy. So I cannot, if I'm going with an open source Mimir, I don't think it's 100% achievable to have a multi-tenancy. Okay, so if you want to have an enterprise level multi-tenancy, if you want to have like a security capabilities, these are possible only in an enterprise version of Mimir. That is Grafana Enterprise Mimir, GEM, we used to call GEM, or Grafana Cloud Metrics, GCM, if you're talking about cloud. Okay, these options are not there in the open source Mimir version.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Arun.
No worries, no worries. Again, as the core vision of this is something hidden. I don't want to like complicate too much for you guys, but since you guys are interested in it, I thought of spending a little bit time here. So we are not enforcing again to use only Mimir, only Prometheus to get visualized, the data visualized in Grafana. If you want, feel free to use Influx or Datadog or Graphite, whatever you're comfortable with. Still, we will be able to get meaningful insights out of it. And we are 100% OTel compliant, open telemetry compliant, right? So you can use OTel collector, Grafana agent interchangeably to push everything into the platform. So if you are looking for some solution that is neutral, vendor without no vendor lock-in to the corest one, we probably will be in the top 3 or 4 candidates in the list. So the whole thing is built with the complete open source and open telemetry and all the open standards in mind. So you are free to choose whatever you wanted. At the same time, if you wanted to explore the options from Grafana, we do have options available for you as well. Right. So I don't know to take another break. So any other questions, guys? Let's spend 5 minutes discussing anything open. Then I will move on to the next part. That is logs, which is interesting. But any questions, guys? Anything you would like to discuss? I don't watch IPL, so if you want to discuss IPL, I'm the bad guy for it. Anything under the sun, if you want to discuss, I'm happy. At least something.
Yeah. One question. Since you coined a word profiling, so profiling is like the scenario or the case how we brought to that issue. Is that how it is being addressed the same in Grafana and Prometheus?
Okay, so are you using any profiling tools today?
No, I am not yet.
Right. So for others, profiling is another concept. Okay, so it is another way. Let me try to show that to you. So it is, again, you can get more interesting stuff from cloud native thing. It is primarily, it will help you to understand the complete flow of all the data and where there is a bottleneck. It's more advanced than traces. It will increase and even give much more insights. That is what a continuous profiling is. You can have better understanding going through this. How Grafana probably help you to do is, we have another open source project called Flare. Okay, so you can explore this one. This is a Grafana Flare open source profiling. We started this probably a year back, but what happened was there was another very cool open source project that we found in the market that is called Pyroscope. Okay, if you are not heard about it, explore a little bit. It is very interesting product. Okay, so Pyroscope is again a very strong contender in open source continuous profiling. So we acquired Pyroscope, and as always part of our vision, we made Pyroscope available as a part of our open source stack. So you can still, if you want to use profiling, you can use this continuous profiling Flare. That is part of our flag. You can find it here. In this particular case, the intro to MLT example, which I showed you before, we do also have Flare. We added it recently. When you start this particular module, in this particular case, let me show that to you. So I'm having a Flare here. So let me use a sample one. I'm trying to understand the CPU performance of this particular thing using the profiling. Okay, so it gives me the CPU well-being and all these different statuses that current CPU is having. So I can expand it, understand to the code level. From the process level, I can go till the code level, which line, which particular part is causing this, how consumes how much of a memory, which actually probably if your CPU is 90%, what are the different processes? I can drill down inside a process. I can understand how much each sub modules in a process consumes or a thread and what line is consuming. So to that level of a granularity, I can get. Okay, so this is what it is. And we solve that profiling problem using Flare. Again, Flare is open source. We do have an enterprise offering, but unfortunately, considering the time today, I'm not going to deep dive into Flare. It is going to be just the LGTM stack. But if you are interested, if you want to understand more about profiling and all these things, we are all ears. We are here to support you. Let us know. Shoot out a mail, send a note to Surbi, our marketing manager. We'll figure out a way to reach out to you and we'll schedule a call. Okay.
Sure.
But
thank you, Arun. Thank you.
No worries. At times, developer has an option to send another metric or send another label within existing metric. Can you touch upon increasing metrics, more labels for the one metric? Which one do you prefer? So in terms of metrics, I don't mind having more labels, Jinal, because the cardinality, yes, cardinality having more data might be a challenge, but metrics, it should be fine. Okay, but how are you planning to send custom metric via Prometheus? Are you doing it today, or how do you achieve it, Jinal? If you would like to explain, it's fine. If you want to talk offline as well, that is fine. Are you currently
basically means, yeah, one of the example could be based on type of consumers. Let's say I have 20 different endpoints and 100 different consumers. So maybe let us think of one metric per consumer, or maybe one metric per API. And then, so yeah, so what one to choose, let's say different metric for different consumer, and then different labels for an API, or maybe one metric for an API and then different labels for different consumers.
I'm going to take a little bit step back here. So metrics, we feel all the data would be useful, right? Because we don't know what data might come handy at what time, but I'm trying to understand the root cause. Any specific reason? Is it because the cost might increase, or any specific reason you have in mind to optimize this level of granularity?
Yeah, so what I'm feeling is it is very straightforward and easy to have different metrics for each scenarios.
Correct.
But I see with more number of metrics, cost will increase. And if I keep the metrics minimum and have different labels in one matrix to serve my purpose, it could be cost effective. But I'm not that sure. I'm still, reading on that.
That is a very brilliant question. So this is a very honest pain that we are seeing. Guys, I'm spending a little bit time in questions. Okay, I thought this would be more interactive with you guys. Okay, so I'll cover the topic as well. Don't worry. So this is a very brilliant question. The reason I'll tell you, this is a very common pain point that we come across on a day-to-day basis. If you think about specifically India, right? When you meet, I met some customers like Zomato. I met customers like Flipkart, etc. They're not customers; they're prospects. Okay, so we met huge banks in India. The challenge or a unique thing about India is the kind of scale that we see in India. It's probably not anywhere we are seeing in the world except China, because leave China at this point. The Zomato or Uber or the kind of transactions, even UPI, the amount of transactions are like humongous. If a customer comes to me, recently a customer came to me, e-commerce biggest client, biggest customer in India. They said, I'm trying to ingest 500 million active series into Grafana. How much would it cost? So if you look at if you do a traditional calculation and all these things, the price would come in 10 mil or 15 mil, which sound okay for a customer that huge, but nobody would pay, willing to pay, right? Because the market is very not so healthy now. So everybody will think about spending money. So to address this, we came with a solution. The reason I'm expanding this question a little bit is we have a solution which is launched probably 3 weeks before. We launched a solution called Adaptive Metrics. I'm trying to give you a little bit more information. This is available in cloud only today. Grafana cloud only today. What is Adaptive Metrics is this. Suppose I'm ingesting 100 million metrics today, active series of metrics, unique metrics, active series means, okay? More metrics I'm ingesting, more cost I need to pay to any vendor in the market. But if I have this functionality, Adaptive Metrics, what it does is it looks into your past 30 days of data. You need at least 15 to 30 days of data. I'm not really sure about the number of days. What this particular feature does is it will tell you, hey, you have 100 million metrics. Out of this 100 million, only 10 million is used. 70 million is not so frequently used. 20 million is not at all used. So it will analyze that and give you an insight. And using that feature, you can archive it. You can reduce the count of that metric. So by this way, we actually tested it with few customers. Even internally, we are the first customer for this feature. We've reduced our cost, Grafana's enterprise developers team cost on metrics management by 60%. Do you believe it? We reduced our spending by 60% just by our own feature. So this is a feature I think would be really helpful for customers who wanted to use our product at the same time cost conscious. To be honest, if you're talking this kind of a solution to a sales team, the first thing is a red flag. Hey, you're trying to reduce my income, but the way we work is not in that way. We want to reduce the hole in the customer's pocket, right? So this feature I think would be helpful. You don't need to restrict while ingesting data because every metric is important. You don't know whether it is important or not at the ingesting point. Ingest everything. While the ingestion part, we will be analyzing it and will give you a recommendation. Hey, I think this is not used at all for the past 30 days. Can I aggregate it? That means it simply won't drop it. Again, I'll tell you, it will try to archive it, keep it separate. So your cost goes down because you're not actively managing it. It's just archive. If you need it, you can unarchive it using the platform. Do you think this makes sense, guys? Just thinking it loud. Am I making sense? Is it something you want to understand more? I'm happy.
Yeah, this is interesting. So how do you decide it's not required? Means by looking at the usages in dashboard alerts, history of PromQL queries, is it?
Yes, you're absolutely right. It is. It actually, there are multiple things it involves. Okay, so when I say not used, whether this data has been queried, whether API has used or any scripts has been used or pulling the data and visualization dashboard used, it checks multiple parameters. Then it gives you a recommendation. It won't take an action. It will give you a recommendation. Unused, partially used, not used. Sorry, more frequently used. Based on it, you can take a call. So we've seen this particular feature have helped our customers save 40 to 80%. 80% is like few cases I've seen personally. 40 to 80% of their cost. So that means they are paying us less, but still it helps customers. So Hope it was useful. So I think we are a little bit running out of time. But any other
Yeah,
questions?
thanks.
No worries, no worries. Any other questions? Okay.
One last question.
Yes.
With respect to implementation, say for example, Grafana or Prometheus will only implement via VMs and Kubernetes, say for a cloud environment, or any other way to implement.
No,
If at all
yeah.
Because when it comes to taking Grafana or Prometheus, we need to give the data. So it comes to point of security and data transfer. So apart from VM and K8s, is there any other way of implementing
No,
cloud
there
network?
no, there are multiple ways of running a test. Let me find that slide. I think I have not. So the way to run it, we have multiple options. You can run it in open source, completely community version. You can run it in cloud. You can run it in enterprise. But what interesting is if you're going for an enterprise, you have an option to go with Docker Compose, Kubernetes services you can run, or bare metal. I download the binary, you can run it. So we do also have a presence in market. You can go with Azure managed Prometheus, sorry, not Prometheus, Azure managed Grafana stack. We have an AWS managed Grafana stack. Okay, so we do have multiple options available, and there is no straight answer to a single query. We would understand your use case. Suppose if you want to implement it on your own, if you're an enterprise, you can reach out to us. We'll try to understand your use case. Based on it, we will guide you with the next steps. We will give you a recommendation. Hey, this is the best way to go forward. And these are the optimizations required. My job, my team's job is to make our customers' life a bit more easy by optimizing their architecture, understanding their primary technical use case, and recommending the solution. Whether it is a right fit or not, we'll be upfront with you. So we will be able to do it. And these are the different options.
Sure. Thanks, Arun. Thank you.
No worries. So let me go to the next part, interesting part, break. Okay. So, no, sorry, kidding. Okay. So we've seen in LGTM, we've seen the G part, that is Grafana, M part, that is a metrics part. The two other parts that is left is logs and traces, right? So we still have around less than 90 minutes, probably. Yeah. I'll try to leave the last 15-20 minutes of Q&A, or I'll give you some 15 minutes back, but let me try to complete it as much as possible. Logs, almost everybody might be aware of logs, right? So how Grafana tries to help our customers managing the logs, because logs are another critical component in today's world. Not like a decade back, now it is like crucial, logs, right? And different users are using different tools again to manage logs. Primary contender that I've seen personally is Elasticsearch and Splunk. We have other players in the market. In India specifically, I've seen a lot of customers are using Grafana, Loki. I've seen customers using Coral Logic. I've seen customers using Sumo Logic as well. So you have multiple options in the market, but how different are we doing? What different? Or why are we saying we might be one of the probable top 5 or under top 6 tools in the market and with less cost? How are we achieving it is what I'm going to talk about now. Okay. Before that, do we have this poll KCD team? Are you using any log analysis solution today? I presume we had.
We have this. I'm pulling that up.
Yeah. Not this KCD team. Is there other part you have? Not this question.
Sorry, just checking that. Log analysis. Okay.
Yes, please. Could you end this and yeah.
Sorry.
No worries, please. I know it's a weekend and Saturday, so I'm also half sleepy, so don't worry.
The order is like messed up. Okay, cool. You got it.
Are you using any log analysis solution today? If not Grafana, please type in what it is in the chat. I'm happy to understand at least what you're using today. So Elasticsearch, OpenSearch. Those are two different products, man. Um, AWS OpenSearch. Okay. So there is a huge history behind it, but I'm just going to skip it because I'm with, with Grafana now. Okay, OpenSearch. It is one of the very cost-conscious product in the market. Yeah, OpenSearch. Okay, not Grafana. Amazing, 51. So guys, most of them said not Grafana. Other than OpenSearch, what are the other products you used? If you're not using anything, completely fine. So before decade or even 5-6 years, if you Kibana, okay, Elastic, okay, interesting. Splunk, okay, Suresh, which company you're from, Suresh, if you can? Naveen as well. So Splunk, it's interesting. Which company, if you want to type personally as well, is fine. Log entries, Standard Chartered, okay. Log entries still while back, now Loki, amazing. Kibana, okay. LogZ, okay, that's a new tool, man. logz.io. Let me explore it a little bit. Okay. Amazing. So it's all different tools. There are few who use Grafana as well. So let me, there is a very big difference between Elastic or Splunk, even Sumo Logic compared to what we offer today. I will tell you why it is different and how you can leverage the power of Grafana in that case, but happy to know. Thanks, guys. Thanks for filling in patiently, guys, and thanks for waiting on so far. So let's move on. Okay, but what is logs, right? Almost everybody answered it, so I'm going to skip it. It is simply files that contains things that have happened. It is always past. There is no prediction, there is no future unless it is an astrological things. But yeah, it's always a past. It always tells you what had happened probably. Okay, so this is how a typical log file would look like. It's even worse than this if you look at the normal log file. At least this is a bit more formatted, but this is how a typical log file will look like. But traditional solutions, what are traditional solutions, right? Before any login, I've seen Sumo Logic probably 2015-16. Before that, when I was working a decade back, it's always like this. I'll take a grep, I'll take a log files, 5-6 log files. I use Log4j at that time. I'll use grep, was always my savior. I'm very honest. I did this in 2014-15. I was a backend developer. So grep solved a lot of my problem. It's so simple. Okay, so it used to be very good in solving problems, but the challenges that I faced was it's difficult to scale. I know grep, but for a newbie or my manager, to some extent, hey, grep this difficult, expensive to scale. Not just grep, older solutions. It has a huge hardware footprint. And licensing cost, it's mind blowing. And correlation, this is very important in today's world. Hey, I'm having a log file. Log file tells me something wrong is happening, but how do I correlate this with metric or any other part like a traces? Or if I have one log, application microservice, one log, something is wrong, how do I figure out whether this is related to any other logs? Correlated. I need to relate this with something else to figure out the root cause. It is very hard if you do it in a traditional monitoring. Correlation is the major pain factor that I've personally experienced. I'm seeing a lot in today's market. Pre-cloud, don't have the tradition. Most of the traditional solutions was built pre-cloud or pre-containers world. Let me put cloud also to some extent, it's fine. Pre-container era is what we used to call it, pre-Kubernetes era. It's very difficult to manage those things. And indexing, I've seen few people said Elastic, Splunk, etc. Right? It is very strong tools. Okay, being very honest with you, very good tools. But the problem is cost and indexing. To make, probably if you want to search, they need to give results in a faster manner. Do you know how they achieve it to some extent? They do something called reverse indexing or full text search. Suppose I'm pushing 100 MB of data with a huge log stream. To store the data, what they do is they parse the data, complete data, and they try to index everything. What do I mean by index? My name is Arun. Okay, when I say index, it simply says, understands what is this. My name is Arun. It says name equal to Arun. It understands the context. It map it with a key. Okay, it parses and index everything. Likewise, it indexes all the data. So if I search anything, full text search, it will be able to compare it with all the index and give you a response and faster. The challenge here is, it is very good to be honest, but during ingestion, I need to parse the data, I need to do an indexing. So it's a resource intensive task. You need to shell out a lot of dollars to do that. And you need to have the index. If I'm talking about index, you need to have it in main memory, RAM. So I need to have a huge main memory for a huge index. It won't work because logs have changed, containers, a lot of specialized container services have came up, and the growth is enormous. I cannot afford to have all the data in main memory. I cannot individually scale as well. Now I'm able to do it. So it need to scale on demand, right? So there are a lot of practical physical challenges that came into picture. But why we are talking about a Grafana solution, right? So we saw there are hundreds of tools still. If we want to use that, Grafana will still help you to achieve whatever you wanted. But we saw customers are shelling out a lot of additional money for unnecessary things. We know what is needed. So again, we took that as a challenge. We built an open source project. We always build an open source project. It's never a commercial offering. We felt we had the responsibility to give a very working solution to the community. We thought it would increase the debate in that community. It did really. So what started as a thought, it became like a product, like a Loki. It is tailored for logs, but built for developers and operators. It is very similar for Prometheus, but just for logs. Okay, so that's what Loki is. Loki is like Prometheus, but just for logs, the tagline. It's a primary thing is it's a log aggregation system. It helps you to get insights out of the logs in a faster manner, in an inexpensive way. I will tell you the internal workings in some time. Okay. These are benefits. The correlation is easier. I will show you in demo. Easy to operate. Scale, because the whole thing is microservice based, built on microservice based architecture. You can run it as monolithic as well if you want. Lower TCO. I have a data to back it up. So overall total cost of ownership is completely lesser compared to AWS OpenSearch or any other tools that you mentioned so far. I'm not sure about Logz. I'll find it out. Okay. So sweet spots, the sweet part is reducing MTTR. Okay. And you can create an alert on top of it. What Loki is not, we are not a SIM tool today, as of today, but tomorrow it's a different equation altogether. Today, it's not a SIM tool, and we don't have a built-in mechanism to archive it, but that has been changed a little bit now. I'll talk about it. Okay. So that is, Loki is not a security tool. It is not a SIM developed for security related events. So this is the star. You can always tell the credibility of the open source project by its stars in GitHub and the forks in GitHub. I think as of yesterday, I checked, it was around 19,000. It is still growing because this, bear with me, this became GA in 1 year back. This is like, I think we started this somewhere around 2021, publicly available. I presume, correct me if I'm wrong, Surabhi, but we are seeing the growth linearly in an exponential way. It's a contradicting statement, but that is true. Okay. But how do I get logs into Loki? What kind of logs I need to ingest? As always, you can ingest any type of logs. Loki accepts everything. We don't have a standard format. We do have, but we accept everything. We will give you different ways to parse it. Like I have a 10-year-old legacy lab. I have an Nginx. I have a latest Kubernetes. I have a Docker. We do support all different kinds of format. You can define your own regex and extract whatever data you needed. Loki accepts all. And how to ingest data? Again, we're not restricting. If you're using FluentD, Docker, Log4j, Logstash, FluentBit, or Promptail and everything. But recommended if you are using, if you ask me, I'm a bit biased. I would tell you to use Promptail or Grafana agent because it's part of the Grafana. I'm sorry. Any questions, Suresh? Sure. Okay. So probably this is very like a daemon set. I'm having a Promptail. I'm going to skip it, but we will cover it in a later part. Now it's interesting demo part. But any questions, guys? Probably I'll cover how Loki works and then I will come back to a demo. But any questions you have on Loki, anything you would like to understand? Let me have this kind of a discussion now. Okay. Guys, are you here with me on Earth, planet Earth? Or okay. Okay. I'm going to take the silence as yes. And I'm going to think you are all listening actively. Okay.
Arun, I have a quick question here.
Please.
So if we compare this Loki with, let's say, Elasticsearch or OpenSearch, any tool, so is there any comparable we can compare features, perspective, or anything that is major difference between them?
Well, very valid point. So the fundamental difference is the way Elasticsearch works and way Loki works. Okay, so Elasticsearch works in a similar way. If I ingest 100 MB worth of data, this index size of 100 MB would be 150 MB. Because the data will expand, it will get converted into ECS format, Elastic Common Schema format. That is a plain JSON. And all the log data that you ingest, it would be parsed and indexed. It takes time to index. So if I'm ingesting 100 GB worth of data, Elastic will give you an estimated on the pricing. Hey, I need to allocate 150 GB worth of hard disk to store the 100 GB data ingestion. The basic difference. But if I'm talking about Loki, I'll show you this. So this would give you an idea. Assume this is a log line that I'm trying to ingest. If it is Elastic, it would do like this for every data that you send, like app equal to nginx, environment equal to dev, method equal to get, path equal to about. It would individually parse and store everything. What we do differently is timestamp by default, it will get indexed. Don't worry. Loki works very similar to Prometheus. Prometheus, I've explained there is something called label, right? So what Loki does is it identifies few labels that would be crucial to index. You can also do a dynamic index, or you can also tell it a static index. So in this case, I'm telling, hey, this is an application logs from nginx. So app is the label. This environment is dev or prod. So these two are labels now. We index only the labels part. The rest of the data, it would get stored in an object storage unindexed. So simple example or a data comparison, if I'm ingesting 1 petabyte worth of raw logs into Elastic, the amount of, let me give you this example. If I'm ingesting 10 terabyte worth of log data into Elastic or Splunk, the kind of storage you needed is at least 12.5 TB or 13 to 14 TB worth of storage needed for index alone. So you need to have a main memory of that huge, unless it is not a frozen tier. You need to have that huge index. But in terms of Grafana, because we are indexing only the labels for a 10 TB worth of data, if I'm selecting 10 different labels, it would just cost index 200 MB. So do you know the price difference between these two? I've personally seen one of the customer 2 weeks back. There was a price difference of 45%. 45% without giving any discounts. After discounts, it's a different game altogether. But this is the fundamental difference. And the way we store the data is also very efficient. So you will get the response in a much more faster way. So on a 1 petabyte worth of data, when we try to search the data, assume for 1 petabyte, I had 80 terabyte worth of labels, assume. And out of this, if I break it down into time frame, it is just 80 GBs per second faster. So we use the parallelization technique, the multi-core parallelization technique to search your data in a faster manner. At the same time, we try to index only the labels, the crucial elements. Rest of the data, it is not lost. It is still stored in an object storage, which you can use it to search it. Am I clear, guys? Is it confusing? I will show you a demo so it makes sense, but are you able to follow me? Okay, I'm going to take the silence as yes to my benefit. Okay, thanks, Mohit. So let me show you a demo, right? So that would make a lot of things clear. Thanks, Naveen. Let me go back. See, I'm going to use Explore now. So I'm going to use Loki now. Okay. The interesting part about Loki is we have something called label browser, or you can kickstart your query. So let me go to the code part. Let me try to build a query. I'm going to click labels. So it tells me, hey, I have these many Bs. This is, as I told you, microservice-based application. Okay. Microservice-based application. These is requested as a load balancer, I presume. 2 different errors are available. Namespace is production, and all these things are there. Assume I want to get all the production logs. Show logs. So it gives me the complete logs, probably for the last hour, which has the label namespace production. So currently, I'm sending a huge data. Let me show you the actual data. So if I expand it, let me even see, these are the labels that are available. Labels, these are static labels, or it can be even a dynamic label. These are the labels, but there are other data that are available. Let me prettify it. Let me show you the complete data. Just a second. What happened? There should be a JSON. So I'm trying to, these are parsers. You can have JSON parsers, XML parsers, anything you wanted. So I'm trying to load the data. So there are different values now. Okay, what happened? Let me kickstart my query, log query. So there are no errors. There are failed to load log volume because this is huge. Let me change it to 15 minutes. Okay, so if I expand it, there might be a lot of other values. In this particular case, I'm sorry, there are the data captured seems to be a bit lesser. That's why I'm not able to show you that. But if I expand it, if I expand any log data that you ingest, apart from the label field, you would also see other datas that are available in your machine. So in this particular case, there are huge volume of data, but I'm able to index few data only. That is giving me the response in a faster manner. At the same time, the rest of the data is kind of archived in an object storage. This is the Loki browser. I can also enable the live thing. So you can see the live data that is coming into the picture. Let me stop it once. I think this error would be really good to show you. Yeah. Let me change the format just a second. So this is interesting. As you can see now, when I'm trying to put it in a format of different thing, I'm getting different fields that are captured. But if you look at the original log stream, apart from the labels, I'm able to see a lot of additional fields. Those are unindexed as well. So I'm able to see the actual raw log stream. But at the same time, I'm getting the response in a faster manner because the index size is small. This is as simple as that. I can use any kind of I can use in this case, let me see, I'm using another, I'm building using PromQL. Similar to PromQL, I'm using LogQL now. I've put namespace equal to production. Let me do with a service name. Service name, let me go with requester. As you can see, there are 2 different probable for a single trace, there are two different equations. One is duration, how much duration this particular endpoint to hit this particular endpoint, how much duration it took. Then there is a status, whether it is success or failure or etc. Okay, this is very simple way to gather information. Another interesting part is I can use this kind of a data into a dashboard as well. So I can show you if there is a way here. Okay, let me try to add a panel. There is something called log visualization. Okay, so in this case, let me choose Loki. Labels, let me choose requester. I need to fill out all the errors for a beast manticore. So let me do this. So it gave me all the errors, 500 code for this particular beast. Let me try to run it. Okay, try to save it, apply it. So I can move it here. So in a single dashboard, I have all the different metrics that are available to me. At the same time, I also have all the different logs that are associated with this. Okay, so I can build a dashboard like this as well. This is as simple as that. Probably we'll see few more iterations on this demo part. Probably that would give an idea, but there are a few questions. Let me check. How labels are decided? That is a very good question. So generally, I'm taking a question along the way, so it makes more sense for others. So labels, we generally recommend to choose labels that are not so unique. For example, when I say there is something called cardinality, that means for every unique item, a new row would be created, new kind of a stream would be created. If I choose IP address, I'm opening my application to thousands of customers. Every IP address will generate a new log stream. That means the cardinality of IP would be very high. The problem is, if there is a more cardinality to your label, then your index size is huge. It's very similar to doing a full text search, right? I don't want to create a huge index. That is the end goal. So our recommendation, there are best practices around choosing a particular label. Our recommendation is always choose a label in a balanced manner, like environment. Environment, at least what we recommend is if a particular label appears once in every 15-20 minutes, that should be fine. But it should not frequently appear every 2 minutes, 3 minutes, because every unique item will create a new entry, which we don't want. We want to combine or aggregate as much as possible, so the index size can be kept small. At the same time, whenever you search something, we'll be able to give you the results in a faster manner. So labels are decided in a balanced way, not to give a more frequently occurring data, not to give very less frequently occurring data. It should be in a balance. But there are few best practices around it, Janan. I'll share you a document. I'll try to gather the document and share it as well. Okay. Ravi has a question. To ingest my application logs into Loki, do I need to write logs in a specific format? You don't need to. As I said previously, we do accept all the commonly accepted log formats. Okay. One of the major way to for Grafana to ingest data is you can use Promptail or Grafana agent. That would, but you need to define, if it is a custom log, you need to define a regex. You need to tell it, hey, this is the format of my log. So Loki understands the log format to extract data. So if it is a custom log that is not of any standard, you need to define a very similar to if you're using log4j, right? When you're defining log4j in log4 shell file, configuration file, you would be defining this is my log format. You need to do a similar formatting structure in Loki in the form of regex. Okay, then it will fetch all the data. So let me try to show you something. If it is there here, I will try to show you. If not, I'll share a separate thing. I don't think it is available. Okay, so in this case, it is collected directly by Grafana agent, or I think I'm running an OTEL, open telemetry. So agent to get all these information as well. So you can ingest any format of data into Grafana. Loki is nothing but a backend database. But when you are ingesting data, you need to let Loki know, hey, this is the format, either in the regex or use a common parsers. So there are commonly used parsers available in Loki. Let me try to find that to you. I'm trying to find that. Okay, I couldn't find it. Let me get that out. Okay, we have something called LogQL analyzer. We have something called LogQL parser. It would help you to analyze a log and convert it in any format you wanted in a real life manner, in a near real time. Okay. So any other questions, guys? Any other questions?
I have a couple of quick follow-up questions.
Please.
So let's say I'm passing two labels in the query, and there will be two different indexes maintained, right?
You're absolutely
in
right.
logging. So then, and let's say points to the same line of logs, means it will be applying AND query results of both the index. So final object, like, what logs I'm ingesting, it's a just same copy or it is duplicating for both the labels?
No, that's a good question. So ideally, assume I'm selecting two different labels, app and environment, like this example, app equal to engines and environment equal to production or dev or whatever it is, right? So in this case, what happens is it creates two different buckets. Assume two different buckets has been created. So whenever a log has been generated from a production environment with an application engines, it goes to the first bucket and gets stored there. Under this label, a bucket would be created. If I'm ingesting an application engines log under dev environment, it would go to the second bucket. If you are trying to ingest dev equal to staging or something else, it would create a new bucket. So it tries to compartmentalize it based on the number of labels you selected. Okay. So whenever the reason is to enhance your search performance. So whenever I try to search something, right? Are you aware of a concept called sharding?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it's a very similar concept. We also use sharding here. So whenever I try to give a complex query, it breaks down the query. It sends part of the query to different cores. Assume I have octa-core or 4 cores. It sends to 4 different cores. And when it tries to run the result, it tries to go to the specific timeline. It tries to restrict it with a timestamp index. Once it reaches the timestamp, it also restricts to the specific bucket. Is it a environment equal to production? So I have 4 buckets that points to a production. Under it, again, it splits. So we use the parallelization technique for searching. To achieve the searching capability parallelization, we try to store it in a parallelized manner, okay, using the bucket system. So it all depends upon your labels, but yes, you're right. Based on your labels, if it is slightly different, it tries to ingest a new line. If it is same 2 labels, if I'm trying to ingest other things are different, it tries to aggregate it under it. Am I making sense?
Yeah. So let's say I'm ingesting one line of log with 2 labels being filtered for 2 labels. It is going to 2 different buckets. So are we ingesting in both 2 buckets same logs, copying it, increasing the storage size, or maybe storing at some central place and referring to that things from these 2 buckets?
No, probably let me rephrase the question if I understood it correctly. Assume I have 2 labels. I'm trying to ingest a single line of data. So what happens is it would be a single entry in Loki. That means these 2 labels, right? It tries to group it under labels. It won't create a separate bucket for 2 different labels. For 2 different labels combination, it would create a single bucket.
Okay.
So it depends on your combination of labels. If I have 3 labels, A, B, C, if I'm sending A, B, C for 5, I'm ingesting 5 different data points with A, B, C. Rest of the data alphabets are different. Doesn't matter rest of the alphabets. It checks the indexes, labels, and tries to aggregate it under a single bucket. Group it under.
Then if it goes in the single bucket called ABC, if I search with only A, then also I'm expecting that log.
Yes.
But then we know that this bucket is having just ABC combination, not only A. So that means will it go to 3 different buckets also? Bucket A, bucket B, bucket C?
No. So what happens is in this case, it stores under this index, but that doesn't mean you cannot search it partially as well. Okay. You will still have the flexibility to search everything. So in this case, I'm selecting this job for mythical server. So it just under this label, what are all the different particular data points that has been aggregated. So in this case, I don't have a status as success, right? Let me try to search something common. Status equal to success. 1 second. So if I'm doing an open search query like this, right? What it does is this error part, it will not just look at your labels alone. It will look at your complete stream of log that you ingested, indexed and unindexed data. It will give you that. So you will still have the flexibility to partial search. Okay. But the grouping of it under the labels is just to save cost for you. Okay. Okay. Is it clear for others? No worries, man. Is it clear for others? Am I making sense? Not clear?
Yeah, one clarification, Arun. So when it is storing, we are absolutely saving the storage thing with Loki. But while processing, I think it will be more processing is required. Am I? Please correct me. Because it has to reach both the index part and storage. I mean, I'm a bit not clear on that.
No worries. Let me try to open another slide deck, or just give me a second. Let me copy paste this there. I've just passed the screen. Just give me a second. Okay. So ideally, you understand the ingestion part. This when I try to search something, it works in this way. That means we use the parallelization technique. At the same time, we are not going to search the complete 100 TB worth of data, right? So whenever I try to send a query like this, right? Whenever I try to send a query, hey, cluster is this, job is this, and certain other things XSS. So what we know is, we know the timestamp. I'm going to search it under 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour. I know the timestamp. So I will first restrict it to the timestamp. Once I restrict it to the timestamp, what we do is we'll break the query, cluster, job, we'll break the query, we'll give responsibilities to multiple cores. It is more like a HDFS kind of a technique where I'm achieving parallelism with very cheap or resource cost-effective hardware. Let me put it in this way. So by this way, whenever I'm trying to break the particular query into multiple small cores, so in this case, again, I'm not going to search the 100 TB worth of data. I've already restricted the timestamp. Under the timestamp, I know this particular query has the bucket or a label cluster, which is equal to this, job that is equal to this. So I know exactly what labels these buckets correspond to. I will search only on that. Then I will aggregate everything and give it to you. So the ingestion and also the search doesn't require too much of a resources comparable to the other products. Okay, comparable. I'm not saying it won't even require, because in enterprise, if you're ingesting 100 TB, 100,000 petabyte, etc., you need a bit more resources than a typical laptop, right? Of course. But what we are trying to promise here is it will not be as expensive as other tools in the market. We are trying to give you a lesser index without compromising on the performance of your search, because these two are very crucial and go hand in hand. Okay, this is how it is achieved via parallelization. Am I making sense here? Is it clear?
Yeah, sure. Yes, got it. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions, guys? Okay, I don't have more time to showcase a lot. Again, guys, if you want to understand more, please do reach out to us. We'll have a detailed walkthrough of this. I would love to do that. Just reach us out, okay, if you want to understand more about Loki. There are a few things I wanted to cover, like a LogQL, how to use LogQL, etc. But I will share you the slide. Please try it on your own. Okay. So considering the time, there are a few advanced things also, like the instant vector, range vector, templating. I wanted to talk about next time when we have a time. We'll conduct next week. I think I'm there at KCD. So if you are there, drop into our booth. I'll be there to help you out with this. right? So what are the different ways to run Loki, right? Very similar to Prometheus. Okay, very similar to Prometheus. We have a monolithic. Again, the product is built with microservices. Okay, we have a ingester, we have a front end, we have a lot of different parts here. But if you want to run it as monolithic, you can, but we don't recommend it for larger deployments. For 100 GB per day kind of a deployment, go ahead. If it is a simple scalable deployment, you can probably have few services in different containers and run it. The better one that we recommend is go with a microservice based architecture. So every service would have their own pod, so you can scale horizontally, vertically. So this also is possible for enterprises with a bit more larger deployment. I've seen they go ahead with a microservice based deployment a lot. So all different options are available. Bare metal till Kubernetes, we do have it covered. Okay. Again, distributions of Loki. Loki OSS is there. Self-managed, no out-of-the-box security or multi-tenancy. If you want to use it in an enterprise or a corporate environment, we recommend to go ahead with Gel or CloudLocks. You already, I think, signed up for CloudLock with a free plan. Give it a try. We do also have an on-premise support, self-hosted, and Grafana, supported by Grafana Labs. I think I came to a fag end of Loki. I think I missed one crucial element in Mimir, but I would like to touch base on it. But any questions, guys? Let me try to answer it, then go back. But any questions, or you want to take a break, which I'm not going to, but if you want, yeah. Okay. So one crucial part which I missed in Mimir, right? It is machine learning. Okay, so I think that is important as well, given the importance. So what I don't think this is, let me check if I have it. Yeah. So what happens is in we do have a machine learning capability embedded in our cloud functionality. So you're ingesting huge amounts of metrics data. So what if I want to create a forecast? What if I want to do an outlier detection? Or want to, I know based on past 1 month of data, your metric will go up like this. Or based last year during Diwali time, New Year time, there was a huge spike in business on metrics ingestion. Hey, this year you might also face that, the cyclic challenges forecasting. You can do those kind of forecasting using our machine learning capability for metrics, which is built in, by the way. And you can create an alert. Hey, this might happen. It would look more like this. This is the real event. Based on the past data, it forecasted this. This might happen. Okay, so this is a very cool feature. One caveat, it is not available in self-managed at this point in time. There is a workaround, you can do it, but in our cloud, it is available. If you're using a free version, go ahead, give it a try, see how it is useful to you. Okay, you can use it to trigger alert. You can completely utilize it for on-call management, everything. Okay, this is what industry is loosely used to call AI ops, not ML ops, AI ops. We are not completely AI ops compatible yet. It's a work in progress, but with metrics, this is available out of the box for you. You can create beautiful dashboards out of it, get some sense of your raw data and also the future data. Okay. With this, we are going to jump towards the last section of our talk today. We do have time, right? Yeah, we do. Any questions, guys? Before I'll take 1 or 2 minutes. I'll wait for 1 or 2 minutes for answering any questions. If not, I'll jump onto it.
So Arun, one question, like comparing this Loki with Elasticsearch. So what I understand, if I understand correctly, is like when we ingest the data in Elasticsearch, it will create lots of terms or tokens. And then that's where, you search on anything, it becomes pretty fast. Whereas in Loki, we are delegating that to user kind of, you based on your access pattern, you define the labels, like, and accordingly you ingest. So that's where the size of index will not be huge or not that many indexes what Elastic, creates when we start like ingest into Elasticsearch. So is that correct understanding?
Yes, the gist of it is correct. let me probably take a step back here. So generally, not just Elastic, any tools in the market, specifically in observability space, there are two primary factors that drive the pricing part. One, the amount of data that I'm ingesting, the huge amount of data that I'm ingesting, and the amount of time I want to retain the data, the retention. These are the two primary factors that drive the price up or down. Because more data you ingest, more resources you need in the backend to manage the data. With respect to Elastic, I'm giving Elastic as an example. Why it is costing more in this particular case is because whenever I try to ingest data, it tries to parse all the data, try to associate with map. It's like assign key value pair with every data that you ingest, every line of data that you ingest. Because of that, it creates a huge index size. So you're paying more. Okay, that is one thing. And another part is they don't directly store it in object storage. Because you indexed everything, they will store it in either RAM, main memory, or a SSD or HDD. They have different tiers, by the way, like hot tier, warm tier, cold tier, etc. How fast you need to retrieve the data. And if you choose hot for everything, you're going to shell out more money. We simplified that concept. Use ingest how much ever data you wanted, but I'm not going to charge you for all the data that you ingest. It is just primarily based on the index you create. Okay, so you are going to pay less because the index size is very small. At the same time, we will not keep all the data in main memory or SSD. We'll keep it in object storage because you don't need all the data all the time. So because of these two differences, you are paying a bit more lesser. But also we are trying, because it is there in object storage, we understand the compressed format. We know how to retrieve it in a faster manner. So that's a basic difference. Third important difference is all of the vendors today will try to convert the data that you ingest into their format. Like Elastic has their own format called Elastic Common Schema. They need to convert that and store it in that format. So it's more efficient. It's true. It's true. In our case, we won't enforce you that as well. Ingest anything you wanted. Straight away, we won't do that. We'll try to optimize it, try to store it in such a way that we will give you that fast. Why this is important is to parse the data in a format. I also need more compute power to parse it. So we are not trying to charge you for that as well. We're trying to optimize as much as we can on this. So I know I gave a very elaborate answer, but I just want to make sure it is clear. Am I making sense? Jinal, is it clear?
Yeah. So how it is decided what will be there in the main memory and then what will be in the object storage?
No, that is based on labels. So when I say index, right, Jinal, so
Okay.
index is something, it should be there in main memory or SSD, right? Because I need a faster retrieval of index.
Right.
So yeah, that's why index selection is important. Sorry, label selection is important. And label can be static. We recommend, we'll give you better options, guide you in choosing a label, or it can be dynamic as well. So you can let Grafana take a decision on that.
Okay. And so that means after selecting a label and its value, and then whenever I'm attaching a pipeline and then doing the open text search,
Right.
apart from that on Loki, it used to like hit the object storage most likely. And there maybe ES might have advantage only for that use case.
Yes. The advantage here is, though the data and object storage, you will still be able to search it. Right?
Yeah.
So that is the advantage. So I'll tell you another option that is available that we are launched recently. This is for enterprises. So because the more time you save the data in our platform, you're going to pay more money. What we are doing today is, okay, customer says, I want to have past 2 months of data for my problem solving capability. But due to my compliance, I want to store it for 12 years. Think about it. If I'm keeping the data for 10 years with Grafana or any other tool in the market, the amount of money you need to pay, it's huge, right? So what we launched is, we launched a recent functionality called Cloud Log Export. So you can export the data in Grafana. After 2 months, you can write a rule, export the data. It will export that data to your own S3 bucket, for example. On that S3 bucket, if you want to search, for example, download a Grafana OSS version, Loki OSS version, and get the data out of it. So you're not paying anything to us. You're just we are trying to optimize that as well. So you don't need to keep the data for a very long time, because we understand if you need it just for compliance, you're going to pay extra. We don't want you to pay extra. So using our functionality, move the same low-key compressed format to your own bucket, download a OSS Grafana, make some insights out of it. So that is a new feature that is not yet completely launched. It is in private beta, but if you are interested, if your company is interested, we'll give you access to it. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, it is kind of like post-gray indexing how we do. Conventionally, that is the same logic we have.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Thank you.
Okay, considering the time, okay, let me go on to the traces part. Can we have a poll, KCD team, if it's fine? Okay, I owe you a coffee. I think I'm okay. KCD team, can we have the poll up?
Yeah, it's coming up.
Amazing, thank you. Are you using any tracing? If you ask me what is tracing, don't no sweat, I'll explain you. But hope you're able to hear me clearly, because okay,
We
no lag.
hear you definitely. Okay.
Sanchin, I don't think there will be any impact on or downside of optimization of index. We are not optimizing the index. We're just optimizing the way we store the data. Okay, because based on our experience with thousands of customers, or based on our survey in the market, we felt you don't need to do a full indexing. You don't need all the data to be indexed, because just for the sake of it. So we are trying to optimize, or we are trying to help the customer the way to store the data, so you can get the maximum out of it. There is no downside to it. We have government sector companies running our product. We have a biggest banks in India running Grafana. We have yesterday there was a cryptocurrency exchange that we kind of signed off, so they are running on our product. So I can vouch for it with data. So 17% already using Grafana, not Grafana. No worries. So I think there are more people here who know Grafana much better than me. So I'm going to skip this part. Okay, we'll give you 1 hour back time. I don't think 1 hour, 30 minutes. Okay. So this is what we've seen so far. So with metrics, I know something happened. So based on the metrics, I can go to logs to understand what is happening. From logs, I need to go back to traces to exactly understand where it is happening. So these are the three things, right? How are these three things connected is what we are going to see now. So this is how it is connected in Grafana's world. I'm coming back here, looking into a service, something is wrong. Okay. So from here, I need to go to the logs to understand what exactly happened. So I can simply click it, go into the logs, use logs to LogQL to understand whatever it is happening. From logs, I can directly go to the traces to understand, hey, this is where it is happening. How to do this is what I'm going to show you, is what I'm going to discuss with you for the next 10-15 minutes. Okay. Why do we need tracing? It is a very important question, because modern services. Okay, before this, how many of you know what is tracing? I think I stopped sharing. How many of you know what is tracing? 1 second. If not, I'll explain. That's the reason. There was a question earlier before, what is tracing? So I'm just trying to know tracing. Okay. Not to worry. Let me give a simple example. So I think I have an example here somewhere. Yeah. So in today's world, right, I'm going to keep it very simple. So I have an application. This is a microservice based application. There is a microservice running. This microservice talks to this processing service, and this in turn talks to the database to get the data. So what happens is user comes here, submits a request. Load balancer checks it. It asks them, assume it is a login. I'm asking login service. Hey, This guy tried to log in. So what happens is here I'm starting a timer. Assume I'm starting a timer. From here, it says, okay, it takes 4.67 to decode this request and understand it as a login, username and password. From here, I'm sending, okay, service, check whether this user and this password is matching. This service handles that, tries to debug it, JSON, XML, whatever it is taking some time. It is preparing a DB request, create an SQL command, send it to DB, get the data, process it, build a JSON, send it back, then send it to the user. So the overall time it took to process this request is important. If something goes wrong, assume generally it takes 2 seconds, 2 milliseconds, 100 milliseconds to do this. Suddenly it is taking 1 minute to get a response. Timeout is happening. So I need to understand where it is exactly going wrong. So tracing is a way to identify where exactly it is happening. It might be in load balance, it might be in API service, it might be in processing, it might be in DB. I don't know. Because today's world, everyone is adapting to microservices. There are different components in making a simple request happen. So to understand where exactly is going wrong, I need to find a way to identify where exactly it is going wrong, right? So tracing helps to do that. Okay. This is what tracing is. It is a way to observe requests as they propagate through a distributed systems like this. I'm submitting a request. It goes via this service. It goes via this service. It goes to this database like this. Here, if I look at it, here in this HTTP post, it took longer time. So exactly I understand which service, which particular method, at what time, what query. I will get everything here using this particular tracing. This is what tracing is. Okay. This is primarily an APM kind of a feature, application performance monitoring kind of a feature. We do offer this. Why we need to do tracing, you might be understand it at this point in time. Because modern services are complex. Logs and metrics are half the story. It won't tell you everything. Because if something goes wrong, metric will tell me something goes wrong. Hey, your banking is down. If I go to the log, it tells me, hey, in banking, mobile module is down. Under mobile module, there might be 50 microservices running. I need to know where exactly it is happening. So I can ask the relative team to fix it. I don't want to do a brute force attack, right? Brute force approach. So trace will tell me, hey, out of all the 50 microservices, this is exactly where it took a lot of time. This is how tracing helps you. Logs and metrics are half the story. Tracing is other half. It holds that importance. Okay. I think let me show the demo, but is it clear, guys? Am I making sense? Tracing is clear to you? Okay. So, okay. Thanks, Sujay. So I'm just going to quickly go through this. So for example, I'm going to go ahead with Loki. So let me choose this guy. As you can see, right, every request that comes in, it has a trace ID. So for some reason, I'm getting a trace ID. So trace ID is the parent. There might be multiple spans, which I will explain to you in short. So I'm getting a trace ID, but how do I extract this trace ID and make use of it? So when I'm trying to configure that in Grafana, I'm going to showcase that to you. And I'm trying to showcase Loki here. In Loki, it says there is something called derived field. I'm going to tell Loki, hey, whenever you get a particular log, find this pattern. It simply says trace ID, small d or capital D, doesn't matter. Whenever I get a trace ID, there should be a value. So I'm capturing the value here. Capture the value and create a link and send it to Tempo. It can be any, again, I'm emphasizing here with a double quote. You don't necessarily need to use Tempo. Tempo is our project to manage traces. You can use any other solution. If I'm using Elastic Splunk, we still give you the flexibility to come and use your own product. You just need to point the source here. That's it. Okay. So here I'm capturing the data. I'm telling This is how I get the trace ID. Take the trace ID and move it here. So I'm capturing that information in Grafana. So let me go back. I'm going to go to this particular information. Select requester again. So I'm getting different things with trace ID. So whenever I connect with a trace or a tempo, if I expand it, see there is a tempo link available. If it is another product, Jaeger, or I forgot the other one, Jaeger or any other tool if you're using, you can still get the same link here. Okay, or open telemetry thing, if you want, you are free to use that. So here, since I've derived a field, it says, hey, I've found there is a trace ID. And for this trace ID, I'm creating an internal link, which is pointing to tempo, which I've created before. So if I click here now, it takes me parallelly to a tempo page where it clearly says, hey, for this trace ID, this is where it started. This is all the different activities it happened. This is how you get a response. It gives me a clear picture. Okay, this is how you get it here. Let me probably expand that a little bit. So here, I'm searching for a trace, for example. If there is a visualization available, built-in visualization available, okay, it is node graph. So if node graph visually tells you from where the request came for this trace, from where the request came, where it went, everything it will tell you. If something is wrong, it will show you in red color. Same thing, I can see it here. It gives the complete timing here. The trace start time is this. Overall, it took 37.4 milliseconds and it went through 3 services. Depth is 5. Total spans is 19. So for a single trace from here to here, there are different small spans, different services, different endpoints that have hit. So for this particular case, assume I'm expanding this. It tells me a detailed information. Hey, this is the middleware query. These are the requests I received for this particular trace. These are the resources I've used to get back to you. Everything it will in detail manner, it will explain to you. I can also, if you're using a query, database query or something like that, assume here, I'm trying to execute this query. Hey, how much time this query is running? What is the actual query? So this is the actual query I'm trying to execute. It captures to that level. If you have a DB challenge, if there is a bottleneck in inserting the data, you will exactly understand. Okay, so in this case, nothing seems to be a bottleneck. So there is some error here. It took 26 milliseconds. Let's click it. It simply says, hey, I'm trying for this particular span, mythical recorder, I'm having a bottleneck. So I understand this is a particular place. I can go to this process message. I can go up the process message where it is sending. It is sending a message using an external service to send a message using an AMQP protocol. So while I'm submitting a message, probably I got an error. So I can look into that particular external package. So this is how from metrics or even logs, you connect the dots, come back to traces. Okay, you can do this way. So is it making sense, guys? Hope it is making sense considering the time I'm trying to wrap it a bit faster. So I can use the TraceQL. I can even search directly. For example, there is a tempo search available. You can select a particular service. I'm selecting this service. For this particular service, assume I want to fetch all the errors. So I can do that. HTTP dot status code equal to 500, assume. So I'm getting all the error code, which took more than or a minimum 46 seconds or more than 40 milliseconds. Okay. So if I try to query this, it lists out all the traces or requests that have taken more time, more than 400. Let me keep it 400. Let me see. 400 is a bit higher. Okay. So there are some queries it took more than it's almost 2.21 seconds. So this is unacceptable. Okay, so if it takes more than a second, you lost the customer. Because if assume I'm opening an e-commerce site today, trying to buy a product, if I submit, takes more than 2 minutes, they lost me. I'm going with a competitor. So I can simply click this trace, which took 2.21 seconds. It tries to figure out, hey, where exactly did it happen? See, it seems to be an error. The whole, while submitting the request itself, it took a lot of time. The load balancer itself took a lot of time. So I can try to figure out what exactly happened. Okay, I can directly click view that particular link span, go there. Exactly when I'm submitting a request, why it took a longer time, go to that specific span and tell me. I can go here. It took, while I'm publishing it to a queue, there is a Redis queue available on this particular application. So while I'm submitting it to the queue, it took longer time. Go even deeper. So this is how you connect all the dots. You can come from logs to traces, go back from traces. See, there is an option logs for this span. You can, if it is available. See, in this case, I'm seeing a trace which took a longer time. If I want to understand what's exactly happening, click it. It takes me to the exact location. Hey, this is where the logs for this corresponding trace, this is where it took longer time. This is where we observed error. So it takes you to the exact location. You can figure it out. From here, go back to the specific trace. So it's so easy to do it. Okay. We do also have another option that is like synchronization. So I can synchronize the tempo with Loki. So whenever I try to change the timeline here, do it for a different timeline. When I change here, it would change this as well. So the sync option is available. It's so easy to correlate logs, traces, metrics in this way. Okay. With this, I think I would like to probably I'll talk a little bit. One important point I missed it. This is a very short demo of tempo. This is how you can correlate with all the things. There might be a follow-up question. Okay, this looks cool, Arun, but how do I ingest data? How do I collect data into the trace information into Grafana or any other tool in the market? How does it work? So the way to get started is, these are the 4 steps. Okay, instrumentation, collection, store, and visualize. Instrumentation, when you're writing a Java code, when you're writing a Node.js, when you're writing something on any language, there is specific way to instrument it. You need to add few lines of code in your program, in your project. So it would start ingesting or instrument those information from your application and tries to send somewhere. This is what an instrumentation process. If it is Kubernetes, we do have an option called auto instrumentation available. Okay, Surbhi, could you please mute yourself, Surbhi? Okay, KCD team, could you mute everyone? Yeah, thanks. Okay, so first step is instrumentation. I can use OTel instrumentation, I can use Agar, I can use anything that is available. We are completely compliant with all the major tools, OTel, Agar, and everything. Okay, once I start instrumented it, I need to collect the data. You can still use Grafana agent to collect data. You can use OTel collector to collect data. Different ways to collect the data. Once I collect the data, I need to store it somewhere. Use Tempo or any other backend that you're comfortable with. If you ask me, I would go with Tempo. I'm a bit biased. Once I have the data in Tempo, I would use Grafana to visualize the data, as simple as it is. If there are a lot of tools like Zipkin and other stuff, they do their own way. Even Elastic APM has the way to do it. Okay, so there are a few things I wanted to talk about. Yeah, distributed tracing, I wanted to showcase this. Then I will end it. Don't worry, I'm not going to take too much time. So assume I'm having a collector, Grafana agent as a collector. And in this particular application, I'm running an instrumentation. I've embedded the instrumentation code. So instrumentation code, it starts the service. It tracks when the service is starting. When I'm getting a request, it starts the timer. When I'm ending the request, it stops the timer. It calculates all the thing. It collects that, send it to Grafana agent. Grafana remote write it to tracing backend. Once it comes to backend, you can use your own visualization in Grafana to fix it up. So little bit about Grafana agent. Why I'm emphasizing on Grafana agent is because if you go with any other tools in the market, like an Agar for traces, Promptail for logs, Prometheus for metrics, node exporter for metrics, you're free to do it. Nobody will restrict it, but the challenge is disparity. I need to manage it with multiple collectors, multiple tools. It's a headache to manage it. Grafana agent, we simplified it. It's a single agent for collecting your logs, your metrics, traces, everything. And it can remote write anywhere you wanted, either a Grafana cloud or a different backend, feel free to do it. Okay, that's why it's so powerful today. We are recommending a lot of our customers use Grafana agent because it simplifies their job. It makes their onboarding so simple. So I can use a single Grafana agent, collect the trace spans, sending to tracing backend. Same thing, collect logs, send it to log backend, metrics backend. I can do that. Okay. So with this, I think I'm going to end my talk. Again, you can run it in a different way. Microservices, single process, feel free to run it. We do have an enterprise version available. Okay. Enterprise Grafana enterprise traces, get or Grafana cloud traces. We do have both options available. Okay. Feel free to explore. If you wanted to understand more about it, reach out to us. We'll have a detailed workshop or a demo, or we can even understand your use case. If you have a pain point, we'll try to solve it or ease your life a little bit for you. That is a day in, day out job. Okay. If you remember the first slide, under first 10, I've showed this slide. Curated observability stack. We've seen multiple tools here. We are trying to simplify it for you for metrics with Mimir, logs with Loki, traces with Tempo. Okay. With that, I'm ending my workshop today. Hope it was really useful to you. Okay. I sincerely hope that. And we are open for any questions. And I'm going to expand it a little bit. If we are giving for the 5 lucky winners a Grafana swag, it will reach out to your house. We will send it to you. For that, you need to fill the survey. Please scan it and do the survey. Constructive criticism is absolutely welcome. Okay, I'm just going to pause here. If you have any questions, let me try to answer it. In the meantime, please fill this. You will get a Grafana swag. Even Surabhi, I haven't received my swag as well. So if you can send it to me, I'm happy to receive it.
I'll send it to you, or I'll bring it to you in KCD.
Our KCD organizer is also eligible to fill.
Definitely, I was kidding. But thank you, guys. If you have any questions, guys, I'm here for some time. All yes.
Yeah, one question, Arun. So all Grafana logs and this works well with structured data, basically. So any plugins kind of thing for like unstructured data for ML, AI, ML, or big data kind of thing. So
Right.
Thank you.
So the data is not just for structured data as well. So it is for unstructured, semi-structured, all kinds of data. But if it is like a custom unstructured data, right? We have an option to define in Loki config while ingesting, or in Grafana agent, if you're trying to ingest data, define the format of it. Hey, this is in a regex. This is the first name value pair kind of thing. Define a regex. Okay, we will be able to handle structured, semi-structured, and unstructured, all 3 kinds of data. And it will give you the same experience across the board, irrespective of that kind of data that you ingest.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Arun. Thanks a lot.
No problem. I would like to know more about profiling. Could you please share, Shamu? Okay, Preeti, considering the time today, might not be able to provide more info on profiling, but Preeti, could you please reach out to Surbi, who is in the chat? We will reach out to you. And we can have a detailed discussion on profiling. Profiling is a very new project with us since we acquired Pyroscope like 2-3 months back, but I'm happy to discuss it in detail with you.
Also, I think like you can contact that in the feedback form also. I think it looks like the feedback has.
Please do. Thank you, KCD team.
Right. Folks, as we get to the end, like would anyone that's comfortable like coming on camera, please do. I'll take like one screenshot and then post as like gratitude to this one. Arun, do you want to take a screenshot with this screen or like any other screen?
Sorry, which screenshot?
Yeah, I'm seeing like, hey, Grafana, like the swag URL. Do you want to
Right.
have that one, or like do you want to like switch to some other like, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so this is last but not least. Let's keep in touch. Next week we have a KCD event is happening, in-person event, so I'll be there. Our team would be there. We would be delighted to meet you in person if you are there. Just shout us out. Okay, next Friday, Saturday, I presume. And we are also conducting Grafana Con Indian-based events, which is again virtual. You can register it. It's free completely. Okay, you will also get interesting swags if you want. Okay, so please take a screenshot if you need.
Give me a second. I didn't like really catch the photo with like the cameras on. If people can come on for like a couple of more seconds, that would be great.
Okay, so let me.
Just giving it like 3, 2,
So
1.
guys, if you come on camera, your video will be published in LinkedIn, so everybody will know you attended this wonderful workshop. So come on, guys. Okay.
Taking it now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arun. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a
Hey,
lot.
thanks, guys. Thank you, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for waiting patiently on Saturday. Have a good biryani or a good meal now. After this, I'm going to sleep. After this, see you guys.
Hope to see you all at the Kubernetes Community Days event on June 2nd and 3rd. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thanks, Arun. Thanks a lot. It was a wonderful session.
Thank you, guys. Thanks so much.